Chapter 1. It is late winter. After the heavy snow, the entire Yen capital is covered in a layer of silver. Yen capital is extremely large and can accommodate millions of people. The mansion of the East vanquishing Prince Qin De, who controls the 3 eastern region counties, is in this Yen capital. The East vanquishing Prince's mansion occupies an extremely large area. The main gate is wide open during the day and at night. The mansion's main gate is incomparably wide, enough for 6 or 7 people to enter side by side. On both sides of the main gate, there are 2 bare-chested brave men standing about 2 meters tall. These 2 men are like stone sculptures. Their cold eyes sweep through the passing crowd. On their broad backs, there is a huge blood-red saber. At a glance, that blood-red saber is about 1.5 meters long. In late winter, snowflakes cover the ground and the temperature is frighteningly low. The river has already frozen, but these 2 men are bare-chested. However, this is not the most frightening thing. What is even more frightening is that there is a ferocious tiger next to each of these 2 men. The tiger's whole body is a flame-like crimson red. Its body is about 2 meters long. When its iron whip-like tail suddenly sweeps, it makes the air vibrate. The tiger's eyes emit a cold glint. This tiger is the so-called fierce tiger. Suddenly, 2 other men walk out of the East vanquishing Prince's mansion. These 2 men are also bare-chested. Each of them is leading a ferocious fierce tiger. They have come to change shifts. Outside the mansion, Yen capital's aristocrats and commoners all consciously walk around the East vanquishing Prince's mansion. In a secluded small courtyard inside the East vanquishing Prince's mansion, a middle-aged man in black is sitting on a stone bench. On his lap sits a cute little boy. In front of the middle-aged man stand 12 people. These 12 people are either old men, beautiful women, or young men, but they have one thing in common. These 12 people are all wearing purple. Father, why did you call so many teachers here? Qin Yu, who has just turned 6 years old, sits on his father's lap. His hand is randomly squeezing a snowball, and he looks at his father in puzzlement. Qin De stroked Qin Yu's head lovingly, then raised his head to look at the 12 people, and said indifferently, "You have been teaching you for some time. All right, don't worry about anything, just say whatever you think." The 12 people looked at each other. Then, an old man with a white beard stepped forward and said respectfully, "Reporting to Your Highness, we have observed from various aspects. The 3rd prince is only slightly interested in strange techniques. However, he has no interest in the ways of a superior. According to our judgment, it's impossible for the 3rd prince to become a perfect ruler." It seemed a little arbitrary to make such an assertion based on only a short period of contact with the boy. However, Qin De didn't doubt it at all. Qin Yu heaves a long sigh. He looks at the ignorant Qin Yu and says with a bitter smile, "I can see that you are as like his mother." He has no interest in worldly power. But on the path of cultivation, he is. Qin De stopped abruptly. He waved his hand and said, "I've troubled you during this period of time. You can leave the mansion now." "Your Highness, we'll take our leave." The 12 people in purple bowed at the same time, then left the small, secluded courtyard one by one. At the moment, there are only Qin De and his son Qin Yu in the courtyard. Qin De is silent. Sometimes he looks at Qin Yu on his lap. At least the 6-year-old Qin Yu still can't understand the meaning in his eyes. What's wrong with father? Why isn't he talking? Qin Yu thinks to himself. But Qin Yu is very well behaved and doesn't disturb his father. He didn't have a mother since he was a child. In Qin Yu's heart, the most important people are his father and his other 2 elder brothers. For a very long time, Qin De has been sitting and Qin Yu has been quietly sitting on his father's lap. Suddenly, the cry of a crane rises. A white red-crowned crane is flying in the sky. A handsome middle-aged man with an immortal air is sitting on the crane. In a short while, the red-crowned crane lands in the courtyard. "Brother Feng, the problem with you, Dantian, can you think of a way?" As soon as Qin De sees this middle-aged man, he immediately stands up and asks anxiously. Seeing Qin De like this, Fenjiuzi naturally knows about his good friend Qin De's situation. He can only sigh and say, "Your Highness, I've already told you that you has no hope in practicing." His dantian is very strange. He can't accumulate internal energy, so naturally he can't practice. This kind of dantian is simply innate. It's hard to find even one in a billion people. I can't do anything about it. Hearing this result, Chinda slowly sits down and ponders for a long time. Father? What's internal energy? So what if my dantian can't accumulate internal energy? Just now those teachers said something about a superior. What does that mean? The 6-year-old Qin Yu opens his eyes wide and asks doubtfully. He remembers clearly what was said just now. Chinda smiles bitterly in his heart, but on the surface he comforts. You, don't ask so much. You don't like to learn this and that and like to go to Misty Villa, right? Qin Yu's eyes immediately brighten like the bright stars in the night sky. Ah, I don't need to learn those boring books. Misty Villa, I like that hot spring. I also like to watch the stars and the sunrise. Chinda says with a smile. Good, good, good. You, since you like it, I'll give Misty Villa to you. Also, the 1,000 elite soldiers will be under your command. If you want anything, you can directly tell your Grandpa Lien. Good, very good. Wow, Misty Villa is mine. I can soak in that hot spring every day. It's so comfortable. Qin Yu is so excited that his face turns red. The smile on Chinda's face is completely fake, but Qin Yu doesn't notice it. It's fine as long as you like it. You go back to sleep first. When you want to go to Misty Villa, just tell your Grandpa Lien. Chinda pats Qin Yu's head with a smile. Goodbye, Father. Goodbye, Uncle Feng. Qin Yu waves his hand and runs straight to his room. Fenjiuzi smiles as he watches Qin Yu enter the room. Afterwards, his face suddenly becomes grave and stern. With a flash, his body disappears from the courtyard like a wisp of smoke. Fenjiuzi also follows him like a floating feather. At the moment, there are only 3 people in the secret chamber of the prince's mansion. They are Qin De, Fenjiuzi and a scholar in black who is holding a folding fan. Your Highness, have you really made up your mind? The scholar in black looks at Qin De and asks doubtfully. Qin De says with a nod, You can't become a leader, nor can he become a Xiantian level expert. It's better for him not to get involved. His strange dantian, alas, perhaps the only thing I can give him is 10 years of happy and peaceful days. When we start the final plan, you won't be able to live a peaceful life. Fenjiuzi thinks for a while, then decides to say it out. Your Highness, are you really going to carry out your plan? You should know what will happen if you carry it out, right? Fenjiuzi asks again. Chinda's face immediately freezes. His eyes glitter with coldness. Whether it's for the ancestors of the Qin clan or for Jingyi, this plan must be carried out. Jingyi left me 3 sons. Yu has a problem with his dantian. But Feng, and Zheng are good at martial arts and literature. They're good enough for big things. Su Yuan, have you started to use the first hidden pawn? The scholar in black, Su Yuan, closes his folding fan and says with a smile, Don't worry, Your Highness. Everything is under control. Good, very good. Chinda's eyes flash with astonishing killing intent. East vanquishing Prince Qin De lives in the Qianlong continent. The Qianlong continent is so large that nobody has been able to figure it out. The main reason is that the easternmost part of the Qianlong continent is the boundless untainted land. The untainted land is filled with towering mountains and lofty ridges, forests and countless demonic beasts. The deeper you go, the more formidable the demonic beasts are. This is because even the Shangxian on the Qianlong continent cannot explore the entire boundless untainted land. To the west of the boundless untainted land are the 3 big countries. The Chu dynasty, the Ming dynasty and the Han dynasty have a combined population of nearly 10 billion people. Their land area is even more frighteningly large. Among the 3 dynasties, the Chu dynasty is the most powerful. In the Chu dynasty, there is a very outstanding clan, the Qin clan. The Qin clan occupies the 3 eastern region counties of the Chu dynasty, which are close to the boundless untainted land. The Qin clan has been passed down for several hundred years and has an extremely deep foundation in the 3 eastern region counties. Even the emperor of the Chu dynasty would find it very difficult to deal with it. Moreover, the Qin clan has a special type of army called the Fierce Tiger Army. Fierce Tiger is a branch of the Tiger Army. Its whole body is crimson and it is relatively large. The method to breed fierce tigers on a large scale is one of the Qin clan's most important secrets. The Qin clan controls an army of 600,000, and 50,000 of them are the Fierce Tiger Army. Every warrior of the Fierce Tiger Army is riding on a fierce tiger. The fierce tiger's attack power is already very frightening, and with the addition of the warriors, they are invincible. The roar of 50,000 fierce tigers alone can cause the enemy's morale to plummet. 50,000 Fierce Tiger Army soldiers can easily annihilate 100,000 ordinary cavalrymen. On the Qianlong continent, military power is supreme. The 3 big countries all have their own Xiaxianists. In the eyes of mortals, each Xiaxianist is an immortal-like existence. Once a flying sword is released, it can cut off a person's head from thousands of li away. Riding a flying sword and soaring in the 9th heaven, which one of these is not an immortal-like ability? Misty Villa is built on Mount Donglan. Mount Donglan is more than 3,000 m high and can be considered a high mountain. 2 years later, Qin Yu is now 8 years old. He has also grown a lot taller. His eyes sometimes flash with wisdom, but there is a hint of melancholy in the depths of his eyes. At the moment, Qin Yu is walking alone on a mountain path. There is a black baby eagle on his shoulder. Xiaohei, it's been 2 years. In these 2 years, Father has only come to see me once. Qin Yu bites his lips and says to the baby eagle on his shoulder. Qin Yu found this baby eagle 1 year ago when he was touring Mount Donglan, so he took it with him. With the baby eagle accompanying him, Qin Yu will not be too lonely. Before he was 6 years old, he was often accompanied by his father. After he was 6 years old, he has only seen his father once in the 2 years after he was 6 years old. The black eagle flaps its wings and strokes Qin Yu's tender face. Qin Yu immediately smiles. After walking for a while, Qin Yu suddenly sees a pregnant woman in front of him who is carrying broken wood with difficulty. He immediately says to the black eagle, "Xiaohei, let's go help this auntie, okay?" The black eagle immediately flaps its wings and shakes on Qin Yu's shoulder. Qin Yu immediately smiles and runs quickly towards the pregnant woman. "Auntie, let me help you carry the wood." Qin Yu looks at the pregnant woman and says. Hearing this, the pregnant woman puts down the bundle of wood on her body and wipes the sweat on her head. She looks at Qin Yu, who is obviously still a child, and smiles. "Little boy, thank you. Auntie can carry it myself. There is only 1 mile left until we reach our small village." After saying this, she carries the wood again and continues to move forward. "Little boy. I am not little. I am 8 years old this year. I can definitely carry this wood." Qin Yu looks at the sweat on the pregnant woman's face. He actually snatches the wood and suddenly carries it on his back. A bundle of wood is naturally not heavy for an ordinary person, but for an 8-year-old child, it is very heavy. However, Qin Yu often soaks in the natural hot spring of Misty Villa, so his body is much stronger than an 8-year-old child's. He is actually able to carry it. "Auntie, look, didn't I carry it?" "Humph, you're still saying that I'm a child," Qin Yu said proudly. At this moment, his immature little face was covered with dust and dirty. The pregnant woman is stunned, but then she smiles. "You are quite strong, but it is still 1 mile. Little boy, you definitely can't carry it. Let Auntie carry it." "Who says I can't carry it?" Qin Yu sees the pregnant woman reach out her hand and hurriedly runs forward. He then turns back and says, "Auntie, I have been to East Hazy Mountain many times. I know there is a small village 1 mile from here. It must be yours. Let's go, let's go. You are not as fast as me." The pregnant woman's face is full of smiles. This child, I wonder whose family he is. With a child like this, his parents will definitely be very happy. In the beginning, it was not difficult for Qin Yu to carry this bundle of wood on his back. But after walking for a while, Qin Yu felt that his legs began to go soft. After all, he was going up a mountain and he was carrying wood on his back. Even though Qin Yu's body was strong, he was still only 8 years old. After a while, Qin Yu's legs suddenly trembles. Little boy. The pregnant woman is shocked. It's fine. This is very simple. Qin Yu turns back and squeezes out a smile. His tone is like that of Hercules, but the mountain path is uneven. Qin Yu's foot touches a stone, and he can't help but sway. Pang! Qin Yu can't help but fall down. The pregnant woman immediately comes forward, grabs the wood, and helps Qin Yu up. Qin Yu's face is covered in dust, and his face is dirty. Qin Yu looks at the pregnant woman very sullenly and says, "Auntie, actually, I can still carry it. I was hit by a stone just now." "Alright, Auntie knows you can carry it. However, the village is just up ahead." "Thank you." The pregnant woman carries the wood. Seeing that Qin Yu is not injured, she helps Qin Yu wipe his face clean. She carefully exhorts Qin Yu. After Qin Yu nods and agrees, she returns to the village. Qin Yu looks at the village, which is about 100 meters in front of him. He frowns and says, "Xiao Hei, we are almost there." Qin Yu immediately smiles, but Auntie is much more relaxed now. We reach the village in a short while. Qin Yu smiles very brightly. It is a smile from the bottom of his heart. The three figures in the dark look at each other. They are the experts who secretly protect Qin Yu. Qin Yu is the son of the East Vanquishing Prince, the dignified third prince. How can he be allowed to run around in the mountains alone? The third prince is still a child, but his heart is so kind. How could His Highness be willing to leave the third prince in the misty mountain villa? He only comes to see him once every 2 years. Every time he sees the third prince sitting on the mountain peak in the middle of the night, his little body in the cold wind at night, I feel uncomfortable in my heart. Another figure nods and says, "Every time third prince looks up at the night sky, his expression makes my heart ache." His Highness. Alas. Forget it. What His Highness wants to do is not something we can know. We just need to protect third prince. Suddenly, at the foot of the mountain path, a burly black man with eyes as big as copper bells is riding an extremely ferocious red tiger. He rushes over at an extremely fast speed. Seeing Qin Yu, he shouts from afar, "Third prince, first prince and second prince are here. Big brother and second brother are here." Qin Yu's eyes are shining with excitement. He immediately runs towards the burly black man and climbs onto the tiger's back. He is so excited that his face is red. He urgently urges, "Uncle Wong, let's go. Let's go back to Misty Villa." That burly man hugs Qin Yu and rides the fierce tiger down the mountain, leaving behind a trail of dust. Chapter 2. Misty Villa was located halfway up the East Hazy Mountain. On the surface, there were groups of brave soldiers patrolling and protecting the villa, but the hidden experts were completely unknown to outsiders. Moreover, this Misty Villa was the villa of the East Vanquishing Prince. Who would be tired of living and dare to invade? Outside the gate of Misty Villa, there were 2 huge stone lions. 2 warriors wearing black armor were standing on both sides of the gate, scanning the outside. They stood proudly like lone pine trees. Their sturdy bodies naturally emitted a murderous aura. It was a murderous aura that only real warriors who had experienced bloody battlefields could possess. Third Prince. The 2 black-armored warriors suddenly knelt down on one knee and said respectfully. Qin Yu quickly jumped down from the tiger's back. The black eagle was very stable on Qin Yu's shoulder. At this moment, Qin Yu was obviously very excited and happy. He quickly ran inside the gate and said to the 2 warriors with a smile, "Uncles, quickly get up." The 2 black-armored warriors also stood up. Looking at Qin Yu's small figure rushing into the villa, there was a trace of concern in their eyes. Hee, big brother and second brother must be soaking in the hot spring. Qin Yu simply does not need to think too much. He runs straight to the hot spring in the west garden of Misty Villa while muttering, "Humph, humph, These two fellas dared to enter the hot spring at will without the permission of the Grand Villa Master of Misty Villa. In a moment, Qin Yu had already rushed to the west courtyard of the villa. With his hands on his hips, Qin Yu suddenly points with his right hand and glares at the two people in the hot spring in high spirits. He says, "Hey, you two are really daring. Without my permission, you've entered the important area of the hot spring." Ah! Qin Yu only has time to let out a loud cry before he is suddenly pulled by a hand. His body immediately loses balance and he falls into the hot spring. "I haven't taken off my clothes yet." Following Qin Yu's shout, he had already fallen into the hot spring with a bang sound, splashing countless water. The black eagle on Qin Yu's shoulder flapped its wings in a hurry. Fortunately, it did not fall into the hot spring. Otherwise, this future eagle would become a drowned rat. Hee hee, little you actually dare to be arrogant in front of your second brother and big brother. This is really too much. Your second brother and big brother are suffering to death every day. Little you, on the other hand, have this hot spring every day. Moreover, it's the Misty Villa's hot spring. A young man said very indignantly. However, deep within his eyes, there was a trace of a smile. Pooh! Qin Yu suddenly spat out the water in his mouth. His entire body was completely soaked. Qin Yu angrily looked at the youth in front of him. "Second brother, it really was you. I knew it was you. Only you would drag me down with you. Big brother wouldn't do that." Qin Yu quickly took off his shirt and trousers. Wearing only his underwear, he soaked in the hot spring and looked at his second brother, Qin Zheng, with dissatisfaction. At this moment, Qin Zheng was only a 12-year-old boy, but his face always had a kind smile. He always made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Only in front of his own brothers would Qin Zheng have the playfulness of a young boy. "You said big brother? Haha, he is about to fall asleep," Qin Zheng said with a loud laugh. "Second brother, do you think your big brother is a pig? How could he fall asleep so quickly?" On the other side of the hot spring, a grave and stern young man who was quietly lying down with his eyes closed opened his eyes and said to Qin Yu. He then looked at Qin Yu with a smile and said, "Little you, this Misty Villa's hot spring is really miraculous. Last time I soaked here, the scars on my body were actually a lot lighter. Only faint traces could be seen. If I soaked here for a few more days, I reckon my whole body would be the same as yours." This was Qin Yu's big brother, Qin Feng. This year, he was already 16 years old. Because he practiced martial arts, he looked as if he was 18 or 19 years old. Big brother Qin Feng was someone Qin Yu greatly admired. The last time he saw Big Brother, he saw with his own eyes how Big Brother smashed a thigh-thick wooden stake into pieces with a single punch. Qin Yu was very envious. Hearing Big Brother talking about the miraculous effects of the hot spring, Qin Yu very proudly stood up, stuck out his small chest, raised his small head and proudly said, "Of course. Do I need to say more about the miraculous effects of this Misty Villa's hot spring? Humph, don't you know who the master of Misty Villa is? He is your little brother. You little brat." Big brother Qin Feng and second brother Qin Zheng both laughed. Qin Yu and his big brother and second brother had not seen each other for a long time, so they started to play with each other. However, Qin Feng and Qin Zheng gave way to Qin Yu a little bit. Qin Feng and Qin Zheng both doted on their little brother very much. They did not have a mother, so naturally they cared more about their little brother. After playing around for a long time, Qin Yu also lay down comfortably in the hot spring quietly. Qin Feng and Qin Zheng also lay down. "Big brother, second brother, aren't you very busy? How come you have the chance to come here?" Qin Yu asked. "Father, Qin Feng seemed to realize that he had said something wrong, so he immediately said, "Actually, there's nothing important. It's just that there's nothing to do in the army for the time being, so I came back. Father also allowed me to find second brother, so I brought him here." Qin Zhang also nodded and said to Qin Yu smilingly, "That's right. You don't know that this time I also tried my best to squeeze in some time. But even so, I only have half a day to rest. After half a day, I still have to go back." "Me too. After half a day, I also have to go back with second brother. Qin Feng said apologetically. Oh, only half a day. Qin Yu responded. He looked a little lonely. The excitement and naughtiness he had just now had completely disappeared. Qin Yu only had 3 relatives, his father and 2 older brothers. His father was very busy and only came here once in 2 years. Now that he finally saw his 2 older brothers, he would be alone again after half a day. Perhaps there would also be that Xiao Hei by the hot spring. Qin Feng and Qin Zheng exchanged a look. They both felt very helpless in their hearts. Big brother, when father went to the boundless untainted land, did he teach you a lot of ways to lead troops? Qin Yu suddenly laughed again and asked at once. I know father is very good at leading troops. Grandpa Lien often told me that. Yes, father is indeed very good at leading troops. I had to practice military chess with father for half a year before I could barely meet his requirements. Qin Feng seemed to recall the days in the past and said unconsciously, Father is really very good at leading troops. Big brother. Qin Zheng took a look at Qin Feng. Qin Feng's heart suddenly jumped. He could not help smiling bitterly in his heart. He knew he had misspoken. Qin Yu did not seem to mind at all. Instead, he looked very excited. He began to talk with Qin Zheng and Qin Feng about what had happened to them these days. The 3 brothers talked for a long time in the hot spring. After dinner, Qin Feng and Qin Zheng were about to leave. Outside Misty Villa, Qin Yu, dressed in a black brocade robe, looked at Qin Feng and Qin Zheng in the distance and waved his hands repeatedly. Big brother, second brother, goodbye. Qin Yu's eyes glittered with reluctance. Qin Feng and Qin Zheng turned around and smiled at Qin Yu. Then the 2 of them rode on 2 fierce tigers. Behind them, nearly 100 elite soldiers also rode on fierce tigers. In a short while, they had already disappeared on the mountain road without a trace. Under the mountain road, Qin Feng and Qin Zheng were riding on fierce tigers, walking side by side. Big brother, this time you said something wrong. Xiao Yu doesn't like conspiracies and other tactics. Moreover, because of the problem with his dantian, he can't practice to become a general. Because of this, he can't practice martial arts. Father spends all his energy on us, but Xiao Yu rarely sees him. He's all alone. Tell me, father and you have been practicing military chess for half a year. How do you think Xiao Yu will feel? Qin Zheng said to Qin Feng very angrily. Qin Feng forced a smile and said, Second brother, I didn't pay attention for a moment. If I say it out loud, I'll regret it too. Suddenly, Qin Feng's face became grave and stern. Second brother, Xiao Yu was born with a problem with his dantian. He can't practice martial arts and can't protect himself. We must protect him well. We absolutely can't let him be bullied by anyone. Whoever dares to bully Xiao Yu, I'll definitely make him regret being born into this world. Qin Zheng's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. The 2 brothers, with the guards behind them, left Mount Donglan in a short while and rushed towards Yen capital. Late at night, on the top of Mount Donglan, in the chilly wind, a small and thin figure was sitting on the top of the mountain. On his shoulder, a black baby eagle was sitting there quietly. Qin Yu just looked at the stars in the sky. In his eyes, there was a maturity that far surpassed that of his peers. Every day, he read books alone in his study or pondered by himself. This made Qin Yu's thinking far beyond that of an 8-year-old child. Xiao Hei. Qin Yu suddenly spoke, but his eyes were still looking at the stars in the sky. The black eagle on Qin Yu's shoulder moved a little. Its pitch-black eyes turned a couple of times, but it did not know why its little master had called him. Qin Yu's face suddenly showed a hint of a smile, a brilliant and happy smile. Xiao Hei, do you know? When I was very, very young, father was often by my side. He also cared for me a lot. Later on, those 12 teachers came. Father let me learn from them. Although I didn't like to learn those things, I still tried my best to learn them so that father would be happy. I learned those words very quickly. Father even praised me as a child prodigy. But later on, Qin Yu became silent. When I was 6 years old, I remember clearly. In the quiet courtyard of the prince's mansion, those 12 teachers said something about me not being able to become a leader. Later on, Uncle Feng also said that there was a problem with my dantian. I was unable to accumulate internal energy and was unable to cultivate. Then I came to Misty Villa. Later on, Father no longer valued me or cared about me. At that time, I didn't know what dantian meant. I didn't know what a leader meant. I thought that Father really let me come here to play, but Chinyu lowers his head and bites his lips. His eyes are full of melancholy. In the last 2 years, I've also asked those uncles out of curiosity about the meaning of dantian and superior. I think I should understand why Father no longer values me. Chinyu became silent again. He raised his head and looked at the stars in the sky. I really don't like those scheming books. Really, I have forced myself. I really want to see Father's smile. I want to hear Father's affirmation and praise for me. But those scheming, vicious, scheming books. I force myself to read them. I know those scheming tricks, but I can't do it. I can't do it. Father, I really can't do it. Chinyu cried in a low voice. His thin and weak body trembled. Xiao Hei stared at Chinyu with his black eyes. He wiped Chinyu's face with his small wings. Chinyu turned his head to look at Heiying on his shoulder. He suddenly hugged Heiying and held him in his arms. Heiying was very quiet in Chinyu's arms. He seemed to know the mood of the little master at the moment. Xiao Hei, I really want to hear Father's praise. I want to see Father's happy smile. I really want. Chinyu murmured in a low voice. In a dark place on the top of the mountain, the 3 experts who secretly protected Chinyu sighed. Suddenly, a Lu Xing cut through the starry sky. The light was dazzling. For a moment, the light of Lu Xing surpassed that of any other star in the starry sky. Lu Xing. Chinyu's eyes suddenly brightened. He immediately let go of Xiao Hei in his arms. He stood up, closed his eyes tightly and clasped his hands in front of him. Let Father care about me. Just like how he treated big brother and second brother. I'm not afraid of being beaten or punished. I'm fine as long as he doesn't ignore me. Chinyu slowly opened his eyes and looked at Lu Xing, who had already reached the end of the world. Father said that if I make a wish in front of Lu Xing, it will come true. Father won't lie to me. It will definitely come true. Looking at the starry sky, Chinyu's young face was full of determination. Suddenly, a light bulb lit up in Chinyu's mind. Chinyu's eyes suddenly brightened. He suddenly patted his head. I'm so stupid. Civil and martial arts, civil and martial arts. I can't do civil and martial arts, but I can't do martial arts? Uncle Wang said that there are countless internal strength cultivation methods in the world. Maybe there is one suitable for my dantian. Even if there isn't, does practicing martial arts necessarily require internal strength? After all, Chinyu was only an 8-year-old child. Although he had read a lot of books alone and his mind had matured a lot, he was still just a child. In the past, because Fenjiuzi had said that there was a problem with the dantian, Chinyu was unable to practice martial arts. This had formed a fixed mindset in Chinyu's mind. Only now did he wake up. Was it really impossible to practice martial arts with a strange dantian? Yes, as long as I work hard, an iron pestle can be ground into a needle. This was what Father said. As long as I work hard, I will definitely succeed. Chinyu nodded heavily and said to himself. His eyes were full of incomparable confidence and determination. Xiao Hei, let's go back to the villa. Chinyu did what he said. With a goal in mind, everything would be different. At the moment, the black eagle on Chinyu's shoulder seemed to be very happy. It flapped its wings again and again. Chinyu jumped and ran towards the misty villa. A moment later, 3 black figures flashed and chased after Chinyu like 3 smoke. Chapter 3. Who is it? A black-armored warrior of Misty Villa shouts coldly. The other black-armored warrior also looks at the figure in the distance. Only after a while do the two black-armored warriors see clearly that the newcomer is unexpectedly third Prince Qin Yu. They cannot help being shocked, but they still kneel down on one knee and say respectfully, "Third Prince." Qin Yu's forehead is covered with beads of sweat, but his eyes are glittering and his face is very red. "Quickly get up, you two." After saying so, he even smiles at the two black-armored warriors. Then he jumps and rushes into Misty Villa. End of B1C2. The two black-armored warriors look at Qin Yu's back in puzzlement. Third Prince usually goes to the top of the mountain to look at the starry sky. Why did he come back so early this time? The black-armored warrior on the left asks doubtfully. The black-armored warrior on the right also shakes his head in puzzlement. Obviously, he does not know the reason. Lien Yen is also Qin Yu's so-called Grandpa Lien. Lien Yen is an old member of the Qin clan. The current East-vanquishing Prince Qin De was brought up by Lien Yen. Therefore, Lien Yan's words are very influential in the Qin clan. 2 years ago, Qin De asked Lien Yen to come to Misty Villa to take care of Qin Yu. Like a gust of wind, Qin Yu rushes directly to Lien Yan's room. Then he immediately raises his small fist and violently knocks on the door. Bang! 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 Grandpa Lien quickly opened the door. "I'm Xiao Yu. I have something to tell you. Quickly open the door." Qin Yu shouts impatiently. After a while, the light in the room is turned on. "Xiao Yu, Grandpa just fell asleep not long ago and was woken up by you." Along with an affectionate voice, the door is opened. A kind-looking old man in his 60s, wearing a coat, appears in front of Qin Yu. "Ah, Xiao Yu, what's wrong? You're sweating profusely." Lien Yen looks at Qin Yu in astonishment. Qin Yu is about to say something, but the fierce running just now has made him gasp for breath. Seeing Qin Yu gasping for breath so quickly, Lien Yen hurriedly says, "Come, let's go inside first. Let's talk inside." After saying so, he leads Qin Yu into the room. The two of them sat down at the square table. "Take a rest. Don't worry. Wait until you've calmed down." Seeing that Qin Yu wanted to say something, Lien Yen hurriedly said. Qin Yu takes a deep breath, then stares at Lien Yen and says resolutely, "Grandpa Lien, I want to practice." "Cultivate." Lien Yen is slightly startled, then asks with a smile, "Xiao Yu, why do you want to practice?" Qin Yu paused for a moment, then laughed. "It's nothing. I just saw that the uncles in the villa were all very powerful, so I wanted to practice martial arts." "Grandpa Lien, can I practice martial arts?" The desire for a father's love was buried in the deepest part of Qin Yu's heart. He only wanted to bury it in his heart and then continue to work hard towards his goal. "Xiao Yu, do you know what martial arts are?" Lien Yen didn't answer but asked instead. Qin Yu shakes his head and says, "I only know that those who practice martial arts are very powerful. I don't know much about other things. It seems there's also internal energy and so on." Even though an 8-year-old child has read a lot of books, there are still many things he doesn't know. "Then I'll explain it to you in detail first," Lien Yen says with a smile. Qin Yu's eyes immediately brighten. He stares at Lien Yen and starts to listen attentively. "Let's talk about experts first. Experts are divided into Hotian experts, Xiantian experts and Shangxian experts who have surpassed Xiantian experts." Lien Yen says with a smile, "Hotian experts are as numerous as carps in a river on the Qianlong continent. But Xiantian experts, perhaps there are only about 100 people in the whole Chu kingdom." 100 people? Qin Yu is shocked. Isn't there about 4 billion people in the Chu kingdom? How come there are so few Xiantian experts, only one in several tens of millions? Lien Yen says with a sigh, "Hotian experts can become Hotian experts as long as they have a practice method. But it's very difficult to become a Xiantian expert. To become a Xiantian expert, there are 2 requirements. First, you have to reach the peak of the Hotian level. Second, you have to have some comprehension of the way of heaven." Qin Yu is immediately puzzled. "The way of heaven, what's that?" Lien Yen immediately bursts into laughter. the way of heaven, that's not a thing. It's a kind of conception that can only be comprehended by oneself and is difficult to be taught orally. Some people have reached the peak of the Ho-Tian level for several tens of years, but they can't comprehend it and break through the last step. They can't become a Xian-Tian expert for the rest of their lives. But once they become a Xian-Tian expert, they'll have a lifespan of about 500 years. 500 years! Qin Yu's little mouth is wide open. Seeing Qin Yu's cute expression, Lien Yen laughs. It's very difficult to become a Xian-Tian expert. But once you become a Xian-Tian expert, naturally you'll have a lot of benefits. 500 years is just a lifespan. The nature of a Xian-Tian expert Xian-Tian Jinqi is also different from that of a Ho-Tian expert. They're on two completely different levels. Ah, Grandpa Lien, aren't there Shangxian above Xian-Tian experts? How formidable are they? Qin Yu's eyes brighten. If even Xian-Tian experts are so formidable, then how formidable would Shangxian be? Shangxian, how can it be so easy to become one? Lien Yen says with a sigh, Shangxian, even emperors have to salute them when they see them and call them Shangxian. It's very respectful. These emperors are afraid that Shangxian will kill them. Shangxian can ride a flying sword and soar through the ninth heaven. They simply can't be regarded as mortals. Soar through the ninth heaven. A picture naturally appears in Qin Yu's mind, riding a flying sword and soaring through the ninth heaven. That kind of carefree and unrestrained feeling makes little Qin Yu very fascinated. Qin Yu unconsciously wants to become a Shangxian. There are nearly 100 Xian-Tian experts in the whole Chu kingdom. But it's hard to see even one Shangxian in the whole Chu kingdom in 100 years. And now there are only 3 Shangxian in the whole Chu kingdom. Among the 3 Shangxian, 2 of them became Shangxian more than 300 years ago. In the last 300 years, only your Uncle Feng has become a Shangxian. Uncle Feng. Qin Yu recalls his own Uncle Feng. That Uncle Feng, who is dressed in white and often sits on a white crane, is unexpectedly a Shangxian? Lien Yen continues, but if you want to become a Shangxian, the best way is to go to the overseas immortal islands and become an apprentice. But who knows about the overseas immortal islands except for the Shangxian of each country? Can ordinary people meet a Shangxian? Are they qualified to ask a Shangxian about the route to the overseas immortal islands? Even if they know, the overseas immortal islands are really too far away from the Qianlong continent. Every year there are over 10,000 people from the Qianlong continent who go to the overseas immortal islands to become an apprentice. But there are dangers lurking in the ocean. Only 1 out of 1,000 can reach the overseas immortal islands alive. Lien Yen sighs emotionally. Qin Yu's eyes brighten at once. Grandpa Lien, there are 10 Shangxian going to the overseas immortal islands each year. Then why are there so few Shangxian on the Qianlong continent? According to Qin Yu's understanding, if there are 10 Shangxian in a year, doesn't that mean there are a lot of Shangxian on the Qianlong continent? But there are very few Shangxian on the Qianlong continent. Over the last several hundred to several thousand years, there are less than 10. Can you become a Shangxian after going to the overseas immortal islands? Lien Yen shakes his head and says, Shangxian is so extraordinary. How can it be possible for everybody to practice successfully? I'll tell you the way to practice. Only 1 out of 1,000 people has the qualifications to practice Shangxian. Ah, doesn't that mean only 10 of those who go to the overseas immortal islands each year can reach it alive and only 1 out of every 100 years can become a Shangxian? Qin Yu immediately feels how difficult it is to become a Shangxian. Lien Yen suddenly stands up and looks out of the window. Shangxian? What a dazzling name. Countless experts on the whole continent are crazy about it. Countless experts want to become Shangxian. Once the flying sword is sent out, it can kill people from 1,000 li away. What kind of magical power is this? There is a hint of longing in Lien Yan's eyes. He then sighs emotionally. Even your father always wants to get a Shangxian to help him. If he can get a Shangxian to help him, he might be able to achieve his goal. Qin Yu's heart suddenly trembles. Father's goal. At the same time, a warm current flows through Qin Yu's whole body. Qin Yu's whole body is immediately filled with energy. If I practice Shangxian, perhaps father will be very happy. At that time, I'll also be able to help him. Thinking that if he becomes a Shangxian, he will be able to help his father and also get his father's praise and attention, Qin Yu's lonely heart, which longs for his father's love, warms up. For father's sake, I must become a Shangxian. Qin Yu bites his lips. His eyes flash with determination. Chapter 4. It is already late at night. Outside the room, the cold wind is whistling. In the room, Qin Yu is so excited that his whole body is boiling hot. Grandpa Lien, tell me how to practice. I want to practice. I'll definitely become a Shangxian. Even if I can't become a Shangxian, I'll become a Xiantian expert. Qin Yu's eyes radiate an extremely resolute light. In his mind, Qin Yu has already started to picture the future. He can even imagine his father's praising gaze. What he needs is nothing else but his father's love. His father's praise, his father's smile, and even his father's criticism or punishment will all make Qin Yu feel the existence of his father's love in his heart. What he needs is nothing more than his father's love. Now, he has found a way to regain his father's love. That was to cultivate diligently and become a valiant martial artist like his big brother Qin Feng. A valiant martial artist, and even an exalted immortal that surpassed mortals. Qin Yu looks at Lien Yen expectantly. Xiao Yu. Lien Yen feels helpless in his heart, but he has no choice but to tell him the truth. If you want to become a Xiantian expert, you must practice internal energy and break through from the Ho-Tian stage to the Xiantian stage. But your Dantian can't store internal energy. How can you practice internal energy? And how can you become a Xiantian expert? My Dantian does have a problem. But Uncle Wang and the others once said that there are frighteningly many internal energy techniques in the world. Maybe there's one that I can practice. Even if I can't practice internal energy, there's still external energy. I can still become a Xiantian expert. Qin Yu says hurriedly. He absolutely can't tolerate himself not becoming an expert. Because, in the pure heart of an 8-year-old child, this is the only way to regain his father's love. External energy? External energy is just using various methods to train the body, making the body stronger and faster. It's nothing more than a small path. Since ancient times, no matter how strong the body of a person who was born with extraordinary strength is, no one has ever reached the Xiantian stage by relying on external energy. It's simply impossible to become a Xiantian expert by practicing external energy. Lien Yen doesn't want Qin Yu to waste his time and says directly. Not even one. Is there no hope at all? Qin Yu is startled. His face immediately turns pale. With his last hope gone, Qin Yu felt a chill in his heart. Looking at the deathly pale Qin Yu, Lien Yen feels a burst of heartache. He's still a child. Lien Yen says at once, Xiao Yu, in fact external techniques are also very formidable. Firstly, external techniques strengthen the muscles and can last for a long time. It would not be used up as quickly as his inner force. And, in order to comfort Qin Yu, Lien Yen kept thinking about the benefits of external training. Hearing what Lien Yen said, Qin Yu's eyes lit up again. Also, although external martial arts are difficult to train, the body is still the foundation of a person. In the fierce tiger army, there is a big man who is born with great strength. He can lift a stone block weighing 800 pounds with one hand just by relying on external strength. 800 catties? One hand. The hope in Qin Yu's heart is rekindled. He can imagine that with such great strength, chopping people with a big axe would be as simple as cutting wheat. Yes, 800 pounds. He can lift a stone block weighing 800 pounds with one hand. His weapon is a one-legged bronze statue. On the battlefield, even early-stage Xiantian experts are not as brave as him. With a wave of that one-legged bronze statue, a large number of enemies will fall to the ground. Lien Yen keeps talking about the benefits of external martial arts. Finally, Lien Yen concludes, although no one can become a Xiantian expert by practicing external martial arts to the peak of the Ho-Tian level, when the body reaches its limit, its power will be very terrifying. It won't be weaker than an early-stage Xiantian expert. Seeing that Qin Yu's complexion has improved, Lien Yen secretly lets out a sigh of relief. He has watched Qin Yu grow up, so he knows Qin Yu's temperament. Can an external martial arts practitioner reach the peak of the Hotian level compete with an early-stage Xiantian expert? Qin Yu asks again. Lien Yen nods repeatedly. At this time, how can he dare to deny it? Perhaps if he shakes his head, Qin Yu will feel even sadder. Grandpa Lien, you said that no one has ever practiced external martial arts to the Xiantian level before? Qin Yu asks. Lien Yen nods nervously. However, Qin Yu becomes excited. He waves his fist and says, "Good, no one has ever reached the Xiantian level before. Then I must." Lien Yen is immediately stunned. Just because no one has done it in the past doesn't mean it's impossible. I believe in myself. Qin Yu's eyes radiate a scorching light. Lien Yen gives a forced smile. External martial arts? Practicing external martial arts is countless times more painful than practicing internal martial arts. External martial arts is to train the body. If one wants to reach the peak of the body, he has to use all kinds of training methods to make his body undergo countless transformations. That kind of pain is not something that ordinary people can bear. How can Lien Yen bear to see Qin Yu suffer that kind of pain? Xiao Yu, practicing external martial arts is very painful. It's even more painful than being whipped 100 times a day. You're also the son of East Vanquishing Prince. Someone will protect you so you don't have to suffer so much. Lien Yen persuades him. He really can't bear to see such a young child suffer. Qin Yu slowly shakes his head. No. He says one word, but it leaves no room for discussion. Lien Yen feels helpless in his heart. Why are all the people of the Qin clan like this? No matter what they look like on the outside, their most fundamental nature is extremely firm. Every one of them has set a goal and will never look back. His father was like this, and now he's also like this. Qin Yu suddenly smiles. He knows that his Grandpa Lien cares about him. Grandpa Lien, don't worry. Maybe there are some internal martial arts techniques that I can practice. You should find some more internal martial arts techniques for me to try. If I really can't practice internal martial arts, it won't be too late for me to practice external martial arts. Qin Yu goes to Lien Yan's side and holds his shoulder, saying, Grandpa Lien, don't worry. In the villa, there are the best doctors, various kinds of experts, and even magical hot springs. What are you worried about? Lien Yen strokes Qin Yu's head. There is a faint kind smile on his face. Of course he knows that Qin Yu doesn't want him to worry. All right, Xiao Yu. Go back to sleep. Leave this matter to me. Lien Yen says. Qin Yu suddenly raises his head and says, Grandpa Lien, also, help me find some external martial arts experts. It should be better to have someone to give them guidance. Don't worry. Grandpa knows. Lien Yen says smilingly. Qin Yu immediately smiles. With a ba sound, he kisses Lien Yan's face intimately. Then he jumps and runs towards the door, shouting, Grandpa Lien, go to sleep. I'm going back to sleep too. As soon as he finishes speaking, he has already left the room. Lien Yen immediately takes out a writing brush and paper and starts to write a letter. Yen City, in the prince's mansion, Qin De's study. Qin De is standing in the study, looking out of the window. It is already dawn. The scholar Su Yuan, who is dressed in black, comes in. He is holding a letter in his hand. He walks to Qin De's side and says with a smile, Your Highness, this is a letter from Uncle Lien. It's about this child Xiao Yu. Take a look. Qin De takes the letter and keeps reading its contents. His eyes radiate a complicated light. He unexpectedly doesn't put the letter down for a long time. Your Highness. Su Yuan shouts quietly. Qin De wakes up at once. A stream of flame emerges from his hand and unexpectedly burns the letter directly into ashes. Then he says calmly with a grim expression, Su Yuan, take a copy of all the secret internal and external martial arts manuals in the mansion and send them to Misty Villa. Su Yuan is shocked. He knows that Qin Yu is unable to practice internal martial arts. He also knows how precious these secret internal martial arts manuals are. Even compared with the secret internal martial arts manuals in the Chu Royal Palace, East Vanquishing Prince's secret internal martial arts manuals are much more precious. Isn't it a waste to give so many secret internal martial arts manuals to Qin Yu, who is unable to practice internal martial arts? Your Highness, all of them? Including the ancestral dragon arts? Xiao Yu is unable to practice internal martial arts. Su Yuan asks again. Didn't you hear what I said just now? Qin De says coldly. Su Yuan nods and says no more. He can see that Qin De has something on his mind and can also guess what Qin De is feeling at the moment. Also, Qin De slightly exhales. Doesn't you want external martial arts experts? Take the 3 external martial arts experts in the Fierce Tiger Corps and find external martial arts experts in the 3 Eastern Region counties with him. Yes. Su Yuan says in response. Qin De pauses for a while, then suddenly says, Su Yuan, send an order to the boundless wilderness. Tell General Zhao Yunqing to go to the Misty Villa as well. If Yu chooses him to be his teacher, he can stay at the Misty Villa for a year. General Zhao Yunqing? Su Yuan is shocked. Qin De nods and is about to walk out of the study when Su Yuan suddenly says, Your Highness, when you return to Yen capital this time, won't you go to Misty Villa to see Xiao Yu? The last time you saw Xiao Yu was more than a year ago. Shouldn't we squeeze out a day to go there? Qin De pauses and says calmly, No need. Then he goes straight out of the study. Looking at Qin De's back, Su Yuan shakes his head and says with a sigh, Could it be that everyone in the Qin clan is like this? Each and every one of them is so stubborn. For the sake of the oath they made at that time, they don't even care about their relationship as father and son? Su Yuan sighs and also goes out of the study, leaving only the burnt ashes of the letter on the floor. Chapter 5. The sky is clear and the air is clear. At the hot spring in the west garden of Misty Villa, it's really comfortable. Qin Yu is lying in the hot spring wearing only a pair of underpants. Whether it is winter or summer, one doesn't need to worry about the temperature in the hot spring. Misty Villa's hot spring is different from other hot springs in that it has miraculous effects. According to the research of some medical experts, there are quite a few substances in this hot spring that are beneficial to the body. Xiao Hei, come down. Qin Yu suddenly reaches out his hand and grabs Xiao Hei, pulling it into the hot spring. Immediately, Xiao Hei flaps its wings hurriedly. Unfortunately, by the time it escapes, its feathers are already wet and it has really become a drowned rat. With water dripping from its body, Xiao Hei looks at Qin Yu with hidden bitterness, as if blaming its little master for playing tricks on it. Seeing Xiao Hei's appearance, Qin Yu immediately raises his head and bursts into laughter. Ha ha, Xiao Hei, you're really cute. Come, soak in the hot spring with me. It's very comfortable. In the future, you're going to be an eagle that can soar to the 9th heaven. You can fly, but you also need to be able to go into the water. Otherwise, you'll be too useless. Qin Yu is making fun of Xiao Hei. However, Xiao Hei flaps its wings to fan off the water droplets on its body. It even stares at Qin Yu, seemingly very discontented. Xiao Yu. Lian Yan walks towards Qin Yu from the corridor of the West Garden smilingly. He bypasses the rockery and appears in front of Qin Yu. Qin Yu turns his head around and smiles brilliantly at once. Grandpa Lian. I want to tell you a piece of good news. Lian Yan says mysteriously. Qin Yu is pleasantly surprised in his heart at once. Good news? Could it be father has come? Although he thinks so, Qin Yu doesn't say it out loud. He looks at Lian Yan with longing. Lian Yan says with a smile, The secret books you wanted have already arrived. Qin Yu is slightly disappointed in his heart, but when he recovers from his disappointment, he suddenly jumps out of the hot spring and puts on his clothes in a couple of movements. His eyes are filled with excitement. Grandpa Lian, quickly take me there. Where's the secret book? No one could help him. He could only work hard himself. Come with me. Lien Yen smilingly leads the way in the front. Qin Yu excitedly follows behind Lien Yen, but he has made up his mind. In the past, Qin Yu lived a muddle-headed life. When he had nothing to do, he would read books in his study, watch the starry sky late at night, soak in the hot spring, and play with Xiao Hei. However, at this moment, Qin Yu had a goal in his heart. His whole body was filled with enthusiasm. Even his temperament had changed. Misty Villa, in the underground secret room of the North Courtyard. There are several 10 secret rooms in the underground secret room group. Lien Yen leads Qin Yu into one of the secret rooms. In this secret room, there is only a bed, a long table, a chair and other daily necessities. It looks very simple and simple. At the moment, on the long table, there is a delicate black box. Xiao Yu, those secret manuals are in this box. Lien Yen says while pointing at the black box. As soon as Qin Yu hears this, his eyes brighten. He rushes forward, wanting to open the black box. This action, however, gives Lien Yen a fright. Xiao Yu, don't open it. Lien Yan's right hand suddenly flashes like a phantom. He unexpectedly grabs Qin Yu and lifts him up. He then puts him behind his back and says very solemnly, Xiao Yu, this box isn't an ordinary box. You can't open it like this. Qin Yu looks at Lien Yen doubtfully. Xiao Yu, you're too young. You still don't know how precious these secret manuals are. Lien Yen shakes his head and says smilingly, You should know that these secret manuals are even more precious than the secret collections in the Chu Royal Palace. Therefore, the structure of this box is also very peculiar. If you forcibly open it or randomly open it, the secret manuals inside will be destroyed. After saying so, Lien Yan's hand moves like a phantom. In an instant, he continuously points at the box 12 times, each time at a different position. With a bang, a keyhole unexpectedly appears on the box. Qin Yu opens his eyes wide. He remembers clearly that just now the box didn't have a keyhole. He thought that this box was the same as its surface, just an ordinary box with a closed lid. He didn't expect that its structure would be so peculiar. Even if someone took it away, they wouldn't be able to find the keyhole. Moreover, there's no key. While saying so, Lien Yen takes out a golden key and puts it into the keyhole. With a click, the box opens automatically. Qin Yu immediately cranes his head to take a look. At a glance, the black box was filled with extremely thin books. Each book only had about a dozen pages. The smallest book only had a few pages, and the thickest one only had about 20 pages. However, the entire box was filled to the brim with such thin books. The secret internal techniques inside are all top-notch. There are 68 secret manuals and 28 kinds of external techniques. Xiao Yu, in the future if you want to read these secret manuals, you must come to the secret room. You mustn't take them out. Do you understand? Lien Yen says to Qin Yu with a solemn expression. Qin Yu nods his head affirmatively. All right, you were able to read before you were 6 years old. In the past 2 years, you've also read a lot of books. You should be able to understand these secret manuals by yourself. Take your time to read them. Grandpa is leaving first. Lien Yen says smilingly, then leaves the secret room. After Lien Yen leaves that very night, Qin Yu alone takes the secret manuals one by one and puts them all on the table. There are 96 secret manuals in total, filling the long table. Looking at the secret manuals in front of him, Qin Yu's eyes radiate an unprecedented brilliance. Ode to the Yellow Crane, 100 Sentences, Song of the Golden Cauldron, Song of the Gold Cauldron, Song of Gold Mining, Note of Water Element. Each of these secret manuals of internal techniques is a manual that can make fighters go crazy. The Qin clan has a long history. Even if all the secret manuals of the 3 big dynasties are taken out, they still cannot compare with the Qin clans. Many of these secret manuals of the Qin clan have been lost for several hundred years. Ancestral Dragon Arts. It seems that when I was little, Father let me read it. Qin Yu looks at the last and thinnest secret manual. It is also made of the most precious materials. Ancestral Dragon Arts is written on golden paper. Even the three big characters' ancestral dragon arts give people a kind of oppressive feeling. After reading the 68 top-notch internal techniques, Qin Yu looks at the 28 kinds of external techniques. Iron Sand Palm, Vigorous Diamond Palm, Dragon Claw Hand, Iron Cloth, Diamond Cover, 13 Great Guardians Cross-Training, Overlord's Divine Fist. The 28 kinds of external techniques are placed in front of Qin Yu one by one. At first, Qin Yu randomly picks up a manual and starts to read it slowly. In the secret room, Qin Yu starts to read the various kinds of precious secret manuals of practice that have been collected by the Qin clan through who knows how many generations. Chapter 6. In the secret room, Qin Yu schemes through the book's 10 lines at a glance. In just 2 hours, Qin Yu has browsed through all 28 external secret books. Grandpa Lien is right. Practicing external techniques seems to be really hard. Qin Yu's small face frowns. After reading 28 secret books, Qin Yu has gained a certain understanding of external practice. External practice is to use various methods to make the body stronger. It is a form of unceasing training to surpass one's fatigue limit and surpass one's limits unceasingly. Internal practice was just absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. There was no pain during practice. On the contrary, after practice, one would feel refreshed. External practice, on the other hand, was to explore the limits of the body and let the body experience the greatest degree of training. It was extremely painful and difficult. These were two completely opposite methods of practice. External practice was hard and tiring. Moreover, it was impossible to become a Xiantian master. Generally, only the poor without any background would choose to practice external practice. The real children of aristocratic families usually practiced internal practice. But what about Qin Yu? There were 68 top-notch inner force cultivation methods, and every one of them was extremely impressive, but could he practice them? Let's take a look at the internal technique first. Even though my dantian is rather peculiar, maybe there's some internal technique that I can practice. Qin Yu opens the secret book with a bit of hope. As soon as he reads it, he is stupefied. Shenting Point, Baihui Point, Fengqi Point, Qimen Point, Sanjiao Han Xiaoyang Meridian, Han Taiyin Han Xiaoyang Meridian, Kidney Foot Xiaoyang Meridian. This. Qin Yu was dumbfounded. He had read a lot of books and heard these words. But the point was, he knew about the Fengqi Point, but he didn't know where it was located in the human body. Although there were pictures in the books, they were only rough pictures. There were only a few lines. This internal practice could not be practiced carelessly. If the qi entered the wrong path, it would be fatal. It seems that I have to go to the study to carefully study the books about meridians. At least I have to understand the meridians and acupoints. Qin Yu's face was full of helplessness. Then he put away the books and left the secret room. 6 days later, Qin Yu entered the secret room again. I'm very confident this time. I'll test the 68 books one by one and see which one I can cultivate. Qin Yu's face was full of excitement. After all, Qin Yu was only an 8-year-old child, and he often dreamed of becoming an expert. During the 6 days of studying the meridians and acupoints, in order to completely understand them, Qin Yu even asked the servants of Misty Villa to make a wooden dummy. He also asked a medical expert, Mr. Wang Xian, who was specially assigned to Misty Villa, to clearly mark the meridians and acupoints. Combining the books, the wooden figurines, and frequently asking old Mr. Wang Xian, Qin Yu was finally prepared to start cultivating his inner strength with full confidence. Which book should I cultivate first? Let's go with this, the Commentary on the Water Classic. Qin Yu muttered to himself as he casually chose a secret book. This commentary on the water scripture was very famous several hundred years ago, but now not many people knew of this top-level cultivation method. Qin Yu followed the cultivation method and sat down cross-legged, beginning to cultivate. The first step of cultivating inner strength was to have a sense of qi, to be able to feel the extremely small amount of heaven and earth spirit qi that one absorbed. In reality, people who lived in the world had always unconsciously absorbed heaven and earth spirit qi, but because the amount was too small, it was simply impossible to feel. Cultivation was to consciously absorb as much as possible. 2 hours later, Qin Yu's heart was in a mess, and he couldn't hold on any longer. Sense of qi, sense of qi. Grandpa Lien said that those with good talent would have a sense of qi as soon as they started cultivating. I've already cultivated for 2 hours. How come I don't have any sense of qi? Qin Yu's face was full of helplessness. After sitting cross-legged for so long, his legs were numb. After getting up and moving for a while, Qin Yu once again sat down to cultivate the commentary on the water scripture. 2 days later, after Qin Yu ate breakfast, he continued to cultivate. Qin Yu was very stubborn. He had been cultivating the first chapter of the commentary on the water scripture. In reality, it was just to feel the sense of qi, and there was no difference which inner strength secret book he used. Stubborn. Qin Yu once again sat down cross-legged. In his mind, he began to imagine the flow of qi in his meridians. After that, Qin Yu didn't think about anything else. His mind was empty, and he continued like this. Suddenly, Qin Yu felt an extremely weak flow of qi in his body. After persisting for 2 days, he finally succeeded. In an instant, Qin Yu's heart was filled with excitement. Immediately, the state of calmness in his heart and emptiness in his mind disappeared. At the same time, Qin Yu also couldn't feel the flow of qi. Calm, calm, Qin Yu said to himself. Then, he once again entered the state described in the commentary on the water scripture. After a while, Qin Yu indeed once again felt a weak flow of qi in his body. Immediately, Qin Yu followed the method of the commentary on the water scripture and began to let the qi circulate in his meridians for a small cycle. As it circulated, Qin Yu could more clearly feel the flow of qi. After a small cycle, Qin Yu wanted to control the flow of qi into his dantian. According to the secret book, when the qi entered the dantian, it would quietly accumulate in the dantian. But what's going on? My dantian really can't store qi? Qin Yu was dumbfounded. He discovered that the qi that had gone through a small cycle in his dantian had actually dispersed and returned to its natural state. His dantian was still empty. It seems that Uncle Feng was right. My dantian is different from the others. It is impossible to store qi. When cultivating inner strength, qi is stored in the dantian. If my dantian can't store qi, then what's the point of cultivating? Qin Yu finally understood. Although there were countless ways to cultivate inner strength in the world, each one was different. But there was one thing that was the same. The qi absorbed during cultivation was stored in the qi-high acupoint, which was the dantian. If even the dantian can't store qi, then what's the point of cultivating? Suddenly, Qin Yu casually found the golden ancestral dragon tactics. Among all the inner strength books, the only book written on golden paper was very conspicuous. Qin Yu reached out and took the ancestral dragon tactics. The ancestral dragon tactics was very thin, only 3 pages. But the words on the golden paper were very small, and the 3 golden pages contained a lot of content. Qin Yu tried to cultivate according to the ancestral dragon tactics. After a moment, Qin Yu felt a flow of qi in his body. This ancestral dragon tactics was really powerful. It absorbed more qi of heaven and earth than before, and the circulation speed was very fast. When Qin Yu was about to store qi in his dantian, the same thing happened. The dantian was like a funnel, it would leak out as much inner qi as it had, and there was no way to store it. Qin Yu smiled bitterly and helplessly. Then he laughed. Sigh, looks like I can't be lazy anymore. I didn't want to suffer and wanted to find a way to cultivate inner strength. This dantian is like a funnel, it disperses as much inner strength as it has. How can I cultivate inner strength? But Qin Yu didn't seem to care at all. In fact, Qin Yu had already prepared himself for failure. After all, the person who said that he couldn't cultivate inner strength was Fenjiuzi, one of the 3 Shangxian of the Chu kingdom. Such a person's assertion was very unlikely to be wrong. External strength. Well, from today on, I'll cultivate external strength with all my strength. Qin Yu's eyes glittered. Looking at the 28 books of external strength, Qin Yu laughed. In the past, no one on the Qianlong continent has ever reached the Xiantian realm. Let me be the first person to reach the Xiantian realm with external strength. After all, Qin Yu was only an 8-year-old child. He still had the temperament of a child. Reaching the Xiantian realm by relying on external strength was indeed unprecedented. But how powerful was a Xiantian external strength expert? This was a mystery. 2 days later, in the morning, in Qin Yu's study, Qin Yu was holding a book and reading it quietly. There were 2 huge bookshelves beside Qin Yu. At first glance, there were at least 1,000 books of all kinds on them. Xiao Hei was also wandering around in the study, not bothering its little master. Third Prince, 8 external experts have come. The one leading them is the deputy manager of the prince's mansion. He said they were sent to pick an external strength teacher for Third Prince. A servant went to the door of the study and said respectfully. Qin Yu's eyes brightened at once. He put down the book in his hand at once. His heart was filled with excitement. At that time he had told Lian Yan about this, and Lian Yan had also sent a message to inform the people in the prince's mansion. East vanquishing Prince Qin De knew about this, so he specially arranged several great experts in the military camp and several great external experts from the 3 eastern region counties to come together. After waiting for 2 days, they finally came. Kong An, quickly lead the way. Qin Yu excitedly ordered the servant at once. Yes. Kong An respectfully led the way at once. Qin Yu went out of the study and walked towards the west court. Chapter 7. There is a training ground not far from the hot spring in the West Garden. At the moment, quite a few people have gathered here. Uncle Lien, this time the 8 great external experts are all first class. There are 4 from the army, and the other 4 are also very formidable external experts from the 3 eastern region counties. Look, that silver-haired old man is the Eagle Claw King, and Deputy Manager Li, who is leading the team, says to Lian Yan in a somewhat ingratiating manner. Lian Yan nods his head carelessly and casts a glance at the 8 great external experts. His eyes do not linger on the so-called Eagle Claw King and the others for even a second. When practicing external techniques, whether it is the fingers, the claws, or the legs, the parts of the body that are trained are different from those of ordinary people. For example, people who practice claw techniques have thicker fingers and more calluses. Therefore, Uncle Lien looks down on these people in the slightest. Oh! Uncle Lien's eyes suddenly brighten. He stares at the last of the 8 people, a black-clad, cold-looking man. This man is not very strong. His muscles are not as developed as the others, and there are no calluses on his hands. He simply does not look like an external expert. However, Uncle Lien's eyes linger on this black-clad man for no less than 3 seconds. The black-clad, cold-looking man suddenly raises his head and meets Uncle Lien's eyes. The man's eyes suddenly erupt like a flash of lightning. Zhao Yunxing. So it's General Zhao. His Highness was actually willing to invite General Zhao. If Xiao Yu can become your disciple, it won't be difficult for him to become an expert in the future. Uncle Lien says with a smile. Uncle Lien also knows Zhao Yunxing very well. Zhao Yunxing's face is still cold. His Highness said that Third Prince can choose whoever he wants to be his master. It's all up to His Highness's taste. Senior Lien, you'd better not secretly remind His Highness. Otherwise, even if he chooses Yunxing, Yunxing won't accept him as his disciple. Of course I know that. Everything depends on Xiao Yu's own choice. Lian Yan says smilingly with a nod. The 8 great external experts this time are all extremely formidable. Being able to practice external techniques to the level of these 8 people, they can be regarded as external grandmasters. No matter which one Qin Yu chooses, it will be a good choice. However, Lian Yan is secretly expecting that Qin Yu will choose Zhao Yunxing, because he knows how formidable Zhao Yunxing is. A moment later, the sound of footsteps was heard from outside. Qin Yu rushed in with a trace of excitement on his face. Qin Yu's eyes lit up as soon as he saw the 8 experts in front of him. Xiao Yu, you can choose one of these 8 external experts to be your master, says Lian Yan smilingly. Qin Yu carefully looked at them one by one. Among the 8 experts, the most conspicuous one should be the bear-like big man. His huge arms were thicker than Qin Yu's waist. Qin Yu didn't doubt the power of his fist. Instantly, Qin Yu became even more excited. Choose one? Can't I choose all 8? Qin Yu looks at Lien Yen and asks doubtfully with a frown. Lien Yen is stunned for a while. The 8 experts are all stupefied. Even the grave and stern Zhao Yunqing raises his eyebrows. A faint smile uncontrollably appears on the corners of his mouth. Cough. Lien Yen coughs, then says to Qin Yu earnestly, Xiao Yu, practicing martial arts isn't like studying. You can hire several teachers for studying, but you can't practice martial arts. For example, if you practice several kinds of internal techniques at the same time, you'll suffer from Qigong deviation. But I'm practicing external techniques. Qin Yu asks in reply. External techniques are even worse. External techniques exercise the body, making it break through the limits unceasingly. Every external expert has his own set of methods, which have been practiced by countless people. They can guarantee that your body won't break down because of this. But, if you learn from several teachers at the same time, those methods will be mixed together, then. Lien Yen shakes his head and sighs. His meaning is obviously very clear. And besides this reason, there's another even more important one. Among the 8 of us, I don't think any of us will be willing to share a disciple with others. A robust bald man says with a smile. The others all nod with a smile. These 8 people are all Grandmaster-level external experts. Each of them is very proud and aloof. How can they be willing to share a disciple with others? But after hearing what Qin Yu said, they don't care. After all, he's only an 8-year-old kid. I understand. Qin Yu nods his head. Suddenly, a hint of craftiness flashes through Qin Yu's eyes. Lien Yan's heart immediately jumps. He knows that even though Qin Yu is kind-hearted, he also likes to play pranks. The guards and servants of Misty Villa have suffered from his pranks a lot. 8 uncles, I heard from Grandpa Lien that you're external experts and want me to choose you as my teachers. But shouldn't you also perform a little so that I can choose? Qin Yu blinks his big eyes and looks at the 8 external experts. Isn't that right? If they don't perform, how can they choose? Haha, that's reasonable. I'll perform a little bit first. What should I perform? I, Mandong, have a lot of unique skills. The biggest man among the 8 people, who is as robust as a bear, comes forward. In his hand is a one-legged bronze statue. Mandong thinks for a while, then laughs. All right, I'll perform my strength. Mandong puts the one-legged bronze statue on the ground. At first glance, he takes a fancy to the huge blue stone used as a decoration in the West Garden. That blue stone is nearly half a person's height and seems to weigh at least 1,000 jin. Mandong walks over and grabs both sides of it with both hands. Humph. Mandong coldly humphed. Qin Yu was actually able to see a visible aura coming out from Mandong's nose. The muscles on Mandong's arms bulged. They were like earthworms intertwining with one another. The lines of his muscles were like stone sculptures. The divine power contained within them was frightening. Up. Mandong shouts loudly. That huge blue stone is unexpectedly thrown up by his hands and flies up. Qin Yu is stunned. Just lifting a 1,000 jin boulder is frighteningly difficult. This Mandong actually threw this boulder up. The strength of his hands is definitely more than 1,000 jin. That boulder flies up 1 or 2 meters and then falls down heavily. Mandong stabilizes his horse stance, stretches out his hands and holds the blue stone with both hands. When this blue stone falls down, the strength of Mandong's hands exceeds its own weight. But Mandong still firmly holds it up. It is obvious how strong his strength is. Amazing. Qin Yu opens his eyes wide. Mandong chuckles and says carelessly, I, Mandong, have the strength of 800 jin with one hand. With both hands added together, more than 1,000 jin is just a piece of cake. Mandong is born with divine strength. He is one of the 3 external experts of the fierce tiger army. His nickname is Barbarian Bear. Amazing, amazing, who else? Qin Yu is excited at this moment. Seeing such a performance, how can he not be excited? Thinking that he will have such strength in the future, he is even more excited. But Qin Yu does not know that Man Dong is born with divine strength. If Qin Yu wants to train to that level, it will be very difficult. A lean man with a hooked nose comes out and says, "I practice the iron palm." Qin Yu looks at the man's palm. It is indeed different from an ordinary person's palm. It is much coarser and even has a cyan color. That hooked-nosed man directly walks to the side of the blue stone and suddenly slaps it with his palm. The blue stone suddenly shook, and then it actually shattered into dozens of large pieces. The power of such a palm strike was simply terrifying. Qin Yu's small mouth is wide open. He is shocked to see that cold hooked-nosed man. If such palm strength hits a human body, who can withstand it? Chapter 8. But Qin Yu doesn't know. The 8 people who have come this time have all reached the Grandmaster level of their respective schools of external martial arts. Each of them is extremely powerful and can defeat an ordinary peak Hotian expert. Perhaps only a Xiantian expert can suppress them. Having reached such a level in external martial arts, their hands and feet are already as hard as steel, even sharper than weapons. It is very normal for them to smash blue stones. However, to reach such a level in external martial arts, it requires not only hard work but also talent. After all, there are more than 1 billion people in the 3 eastern region counties, but only a few dozen people can reach such a level in external martial arts. Qin Yu opens his eyes wide and watches carefully. One by one, external martial arts experts come forward to perform their unique skills. Bang! The silver-haired old man grabs a piece of blue stone the size of a brick with one hand. His 5 fingers exert force and the blue stone is immediately crushed into powder. Then the silver-haired old man coldly and arrogantly walks back to his position and says indifferently, "Eagle Claw skill." This is the performance of the 6th external martial arts expert. A bald, strong man comes forward. His naked upper body seems to have traces of golden light. "Iron leg skill," the bald man says with a faint smile. Then he casually swings his leg. Whoosh! The air is instantly torn apart, producing a rapid, ear-piercing whistling sound. A visible stream of air rushes out in a straight line and hits a piece of bluestone. The piece of bluestone is immediately sent rolling far away. Relying only on the stream of air generated by the terrifying speed of the leg, he can send a piece of bluestone rolling far away. What would be the result if that leg were to hit a person's body? Awesome! Qin Yu secretly sighs. Then he looks at the last external martial arts expert, the grave and stern man in black. From the beginning to the end, this grave and stern man in black has been indifferently watching the performances of the other external martial arts experts. His eyes have been very calm. "Why don't you perform?" Qin Yu can't help asking curiously after waiting for a while and seeing that the grave and stern man has not made a move. Zhao Yunqing shakes his head and says indifferently, "My claw skill is not as good as the Eagle Claw King's, my strength is not as good as Man Dong's, and my leg skill is not as good as this brother's. So why should I make a fool of myself?" Qin Yu is dumbfounded. "Then you should have some kind of ultimate move, right?" Qin Yu carefully looked at the black-clothed man in front of him. He wanted to judge his ultimate move from his body, but Qin Yu failed. He simply couldn't find anything special about this black-clothed man. Ultimate move? Zhao Yunqing gives a smile. He then restrains himself and looks at Qin Yu. A hint of coldness flashes through his eyes. He says coldly, "I'll only use my special skill when I'm killing people. But, even if I become your master, I won't teach you the special skill to kill people." However, Qin Yu was not intimidated by Zhao Yunqing's imposing manner. Instead, he asked doubtfully, "You won't teach me your ultimate move, then what will you teach me?" "To train my body," Zhao Yunqing said calmly. Qin Yu suddenly started laughing. "Good, I'll choose you." Zhao Yunqing's always cold face now shows a trace of astonishment. Even the other 7 external experts all looked at Qin Yu in astonishment. They couldn't understand why Qin Yu didn't choose them, but instead chose someone who only taught training his body. Okay, the third prince has already chosen. From today onwards, Zhao Yunqing will be the third prince's teacher. Vice Manager Li immediately announced in a loud voice. The other 7 external experts all walked towards Qin Yu in astonishment. Man Dong's coarse voice sounded, "Third prince, why didn't you choose me? I can definitely teach you. Your strength is as great as an ox. With a big axe you can chop off a piece." Looking at the 7 curious external experts in front of him, Qin Yu's face showed a sly smile. "Haha, that's a secret." At this moment, Zhao Yunqing also walked over. Looking at Qin Yu, there was a faint smile on his face. He also asked, "I'm also very curious. Why did you choose me to be your teacher? Third prince, can you tell me the reason?" Qin Yu slightly raised his head and said complacently, "Idiots, do I even need to say it? You're really a bunch of idiots." After saying so, he turned around to leave. Lian Yan also walked over to Qin Yu's side and asked, "Xiao Yu, why did you choose this Zhao Yunqing?" Qin Yu immediately whispered mysteriously to Lian Yan, "Grandpa Lian, do I need to say it? Just look at their expressions and you'll know." Among the 8 of them, that Zhao Yunqing was standing at the very back. Nobody dared to approach him. Also, that Zhao Yunqing didn't seem to care about the others' performance. Isn't that enough to judge? Also, Grandpa Lian, look at that Zhao Yunqing's eyes. They're different from the others. Haha. After saying so, Qin Yu walked out of the West Court. The 8 external experts all had amazement in their eyes. They were all experts, so their hearing was also much more sensitive. They all heard what Qin Yu said. Third prince's mind is really meticulous. Maybe you can really get a good disciple. But I don't know how his perseverance is. There was a faint smile in Zhao Yunqing's eyes. The other 7 experts all understood in their hearts. They all praised third prince's intelligence. "General Zhao, we're going back to the barracks first." Man Dong and the other 2 external experts of the Fierce Tiger Corps immediately folded their hands and said. Their expressions were very respectful, which came from the bottom of their hearts. In the eyes of these military experts, even a Xiantian expert was not as good as General Zhao. "Brother Zhao, congratulations on getting such a good disciple. We'll also take our leave." The Eagle Claw King and the others also folded their hands and said respectfully. There was a circle of internal experts, and there was also a circle of external experts. There were so many external experts in the entire Qianlong continent. In this circle, Zhao Yunqing belonged to the emperor-level figure. He was respected by all external experts. Moreover, Zhao Yunqing was also very good at leading the army. East vanquishing Prince Qin De was willing to let Zhao Yunqing teach him for a year. At that time, Su Yuan was also amazed for a long time. The next day, on the huge training field of Misty Villa, Zhao Yunqing, dressed in a black training suit, stood there alone and motionless. "Teacher." Qin Yu, dressed in a training suit, excitedly ran in front of Zhao Yunqing and said respectfully. Zhao Yunqing slightly nodded, then said, "From now on, you must be at the training field at 6 a.m. Right now it's already 8 a.m. You're late by 2 whole hours. First, I'll punish you by running from Misty Villa to the foot of the mountain, then from the foot of the mountain to Misty Villa." In order to make it clear to everybody, the Qianlong continent's time is 24 hours a day, 30 days a month, 360 days a year. Qin Yu was slightly startled. He said angrily at once, "Teacher, this is the first time. You didn't tell me I had to come at 6 a.m. Don't have any doubts about my orders. What you need to do is carry them out." Zhao Yunqing stared coldly at Qin Yu, not compromising at all. Qin Yu bit his lips and said at once, "Yes, teacher." After saying that, he started to run down. Misty Villa was located on the mountainside of Mount Donglon. It was about 2,000 meters from Misty Villa to the foot of the mountain, so it was 4,000 meters to go back and forth. Moreover, he had to climb up the mountain on the way back. It was so difficult that an 8-year-old child couldn't bear it. Seeing Qin Yu start to run, Zhao Yunqing slightly nodded with a smile on the corner of his mouth. Then he returned to his grave and stern appearance. Zhao Yunqing also started to run behind Qin Yu. Zhao Yunqing ran as easily as if he was taking a stroll. His whole body was like the wind, and each step he took covered several meters. Zhao Yunqing followed behind Qin Yu. Qin Yu's eyes sparkled. He pursed his lips and started to run. In the past, he often climbed the mountain and ran from Misty Villa to the top of the mountain. Every time he ran, it was more than 1,000 meters. This made Qin Yu's endurance very good. In addition, he soaked in the hot spring of Misty Villa, so his body was far stronger than his peers. Because he was going down the mountain, Qin Yu didn't find it too strenuous to run 2,000 meters to the foot of the mountain. After running 2,000 meters, he was only panting. Turning around, Qin Yu started to run up. Going down the mountain was easy, but going up the mountain was difficult. After running for only a few hundred meters, Qin Yu felt that it was extremely painful to breathe. Every step was extremely strenuous. Qin Yu felt his leg muscles ache. Every step was extremely strenuous. However, Qin Yu could feel that Zhao Yunqing was beside him. Qin Yu was also stubborn and proud. He immediately clenched his teeth and continued to persevere. Reaching the limit. It was difficult to breathe. His whole chest was like a bellows, sucking in oxygen at an extremely fast speed. I can't do it. Reaching the physical limit, Qin Yu felt extremely painful. Father. Thinking of his father, Qin Yu clenched his teeth and continued to persevere. It was getting more and more painful. Qin Yu even felt that he was going to die. However, suddenly, it was as if he had passed a peak. Qin Yu's breathing became slightly more relaxed. After passing the physical limit, Qin Yu maintained a running state that was close to the limit. After running 1,000 meters and seeing the gate of Misty Villa, Qin Yu reached the physical limit for the second time. We have arrived at Misty Villa. Qin Yu's heart relaxed. He wanted to stop and rest. However, run to the training field. Zhao Yunqing's cold voice sounded behind him. Zhao Yunqing was not panting at all. Even his voice did not have the slightest fluctuation. Ordinary people would be panting just by walking up a mountain. However, Zhao Yunqing's breathing did not change at all. Huff. Huff. Qin Yu did not say anything. He only breathed rapidly. Qin Yu clenched his teeth and finally ran to the training field. As soon as he arrived at the training field, Qin Yu felt his legs go soft. He was so tired that he felt uncomfortable. He wanted to sit down. Stand. You are not allowed to sit down. Zhao Yunqing's figure flashed. He arrived in front of Qin Yu. He looked at Qin Yu indifferently. The expression on his face did not change at all. Qin Yu relied on the arrogance in his bones to force himself to stand. He just looked at Zhao Yunqing. Zhao Yunqing nodded and said, "Since you are able to run down, you should be able to feel your physical limit." Very good. You ran down in one go. From today onwards, you are my disciple, Zhao Yunqing. The meaning of Zhao Yunqing's words was very clear. If Qin Yu did not finish running, Zhao Yunqing would probably leave and not teach Qin Yu anymore. Qin Yu just looked at Zhao Yunqing. It was not that he did not want to speak. However, at this moment he simply could not speak. This was the first time he had run so intensely. All external skills, whether it is the iron palm, iron leg or others, they all train a certain part of the body. They make it harder than steel and have amazing attack power. They are all offensive methods. No matter what external skills, the body is the foundation. The body is the foundation. A person who is as fast as lightning and can lift 1,000 pounds, no matter what external skills he practices, whether it is the overlord's fist or iron leg, he will definitely be more powerful than a tuberculosis patient. Zhao Yunqing spoke with assurance. At this moment, Qin Yu was also out of breath. Hearing Zhao Yunqing's words, he immediately said, "Teacher, I understand. The body is the foundation. A good body is like a piece of unpolished jade. It will be much better if it is carved. A weak body is like a piece of impure jade. Even if the craftsmanship is superb, it will not be a good jade carving. Zhao Yunqing's face had a rare smile. Very good. It is good that you understand. I will only teach you for 1 year. Within this year, I will train you in all aspects of your body. Strength, speed, flexibility, explosiveness, resistance, etc., so that your body will constantly transform. As for attacking methods, I will not teach you. I will only teach you how to train your body to a perfect state. As for how to use this body to attack and kill people, you will have to figure it out yourself. My training method is the extreme training method. When you were running just now, you must have felt the existence of the physiological limit. However, compared to my training, that is just child's play. Of course, you can choose to give up. If you choose to give up, I will also be relieved. My soldiers are much stronger than a child like you. Zhao Yunqing looked at Qin Yu and said indifferently. Qin Yu's eyes were firm. Limit. Qin Yu felt that he liked the feeling of going beyond the limit. Yes, he liked it. Teacher, let's start. Qin Yu looked at Zhao Yunqing proudly. Zhao Yunqing raised his eyebrows. He was surprised by the firmness of this disciple's heart. There was a satisfied smile on his face. However, Qin Yu suddenly had a bitter face. He blinked his eyes and looked at Zhao Yunqing. He said pitifully, Teacher, can you let me rest for a while? I am really tired from running just now. Let me drink some water first, then soak in the hot spring, and let Grandpa Wen give me a massage. My muscles are very tired. Zhao Yunqing was startled. The expression on his face froze. At this time, Zhao Yunqing's expression was very wonderful. It could be described in one word, that is, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 9. Before I train you, I have to let you understand the essence of my training method. After a year, even if I go back, you have to continue training according to the essence of my training method. Zhao Yunqing stared at Qin Yu with a cold face. Hearing the word essence, Qin Yu's eyes lit up and he listened attentively. Looking at the world, there are countless external techniques, but most of them are unorthodox. Zhao Yunqing said indifferently. At this moment, he was like an emperor who was passing judgment on the world, criticizing other external techniques as worthless. Qin Yu, remember this. To practice external techniques, you have to thoroughly study medicine. Zhao Yunqing stared at Qin Yu and said seriously, Medical path? Although Qin Yu found it strange, he still remembered it in his heart. Zhao Yunqing continued, Why do people practice? The first is for health and longevity, and the second is to strengthen their attack power. People who practice external techniques want their fists and legs to be as hard as diamond. Indeed, they can do it. But their fists are hard, but can they be harder than a saber made of black iron? Qin Yu frowned as he listened. Black iron was more precious. The weapons refined from it were sharper and harder than ordinary iron weapons. The sharpness of a black iron saber would definitely surpass the fists and legs of an external expert. For example, Man Dong has already reached the peak of strength training. His strength is great and his muscles are strong, but his speed is slow compared to an expert. I only need a dagger to cut his throat in an instant. Zhao Yunqing said coldly, his body emitting a murderous aura. Qin Yu did not doubt Zhao Yunqing's words at all. Instead, his eyes became brighter as he stared at Zhao Yunqing, listening to every word. Studying medicine, you know that the human body has more than 100 muscles, each with their own function. If you only train one part, it will lead to bad results. Great strength but slow speed. Or strong hands and feet, but not agile enough. The speed is fast, but the toughness of the body is not enough. Zhao Yunqing spoke with assurance. At this moment, Qin Yu completely understood what Zhao Yunqing meant. He immediately said excitedly, Teacher, I understand. Do I have to train all my muscles? No. Zhao Yunqing shook his head. Even if you want to train all your muscles, do you know how to train them? Qin Yu was stunned. There were so many muscles in the body, and training every single one of them wasn't something that could be achieved through practice alone. It required countless generations of research. What's more, even if there is such a method, it's not advisable. It's the same for external martial arts. You can't practice only one aspect. Similarly, you can't practice everything at once. In the end, you won't achieve anything because you don't have enough energy. Zhao Yunxing shook his head. Qin Yu was confused. Training only one aspect was wrong, and training all the aspects was also wrong. Then what should he train? A perfect body has to be strong, flexible, explosive, fast, responsive, and resistant. Zhao Yunxing said so many requirements in a row. Qin Yu was dumbfounded for a moment. With so many requirements, how should he train? Zhao Yunxing saw Qin Yu's dumbfounded look and smiled. Don't worry, I have my own way to train you. Qin Yu suddenly thought of the Eagle Claw King or the Iron Leg Master. Their claws could easily crush the bluestone. How terrifying was that finger strength? But why didn't Zhao Yunxing say to train parts of the body? Teacher, why don't you train your hands and feet like the Eagle Claw? Qin Yu asked. Zhao Yunxing heard Qin Yu's question and was very happy. He said, Qin Yu, what you said is reasonable. For example, if you want to train the Eagle Claw or the Iron Palm, you must train your finger strength. In addition, you must often apply medicinal wine to your palms so that they can absorb the power of the wine. Coupled with constant training, your palms will be as hard as steel. Qin Yu listened and nodded. He had also seen external martial arts training methods. Indeed, it was to constantly train one's strength while applying medicinal wine to make the palms extremely hard and so on. This kind of training is simply stupid. Zhao Yunxing suddenly scolded. He was very disdainful of this training method. Teacher, the Eagle Claw is very powerful. Why is it stupid? Although Qin Yu was more mature than his peers, he was still a child. He had seen the power of the Eagle Claw and the Iron Palm. He couldn't understand Zhao Yunxing's meaning. Zhao Yunxing proudly said, Eagle Claw? Iron Palm. After applying those poisonous medicinal wine, it will completely harden the skin. You won't even feel the pain. It will simply become a glove. Qin Yu, look at me. Zhao Yunxing stretched out his right hand. Zhao Yunxing's right hand was smooth and even had a tender feeling. With a flash of white light, an almost transparent glove appeared on Zhao Yunxing's hand. Zhao Yunxing indifferently said, Wild silk glove. Although it is relatively precious, it is also an ordinary item. It is on the same level as black iron. As long as you are willing to spend money, you can get it. Qin Yu was born in the prince's mansion. Naturally, he knew. Many items were common, such as steel. Wild silk glove and black iron were not much, but they were still not treasures. Treasures. Generally, they were obtained from the boundless wilderness. For example, some extremely powerful demonic beasts in the boundless wilderness. Some of those demonic beasts were even more powerful than Xiantian experts, and even surpassed Shangxian. Those demonic beasts' fur, claws, horns, and so on, were the top treasures. Although the wild silk glove's toughness is average, it is still tougher than the palms of the Eagle Claw King and the others. Zhao Yunxing took a piece of bluestone. Exerting force with his right hand, he easily crushed the bluestone into powder. He crushed it even more thoroughly than the Eagle Claw King. Zhao Yunxing looked at Qin Yu and said, Qin Yu, in terms of finger strength, I am not weaker than the Eagle Claw King. Finger strength needs to be trained, but you can't let the skin on your hand become rigid. Do you understand what I mean? Qin Yu nodded, but asked doubtfully, Master, what you mean is to protect the palm well. Don't let the palm become like those people who practice the Iron Palm and the Eagle Claw King. But, what's the benefit of practicing this way? Also, what about the body? Don't tell me I have to wear armor and fight with people? Zhao Yunxing's eyes lit up. He nodded approvingly. Teaching an intelligent disciple is indeed much easier. A lot of things can be understood with just a hint. Protecting the palm well and not letting the palm become completely rigid is for attacking. The palm can hold a saber, a sword, and use all kinds of weapons to protect the palm well. Keeping the palm's sense of touch in a perfect state is a must for an expert. So much so that many experts soak their hands in milk every day. Zhao Yunxing replied. Qin Yu suddenly understood. Attacking still requires the use of weapons. Sabers and swords all require the hand. A hand with a perfect sense of touch, compared to a hand that is completely rigid and has no sense of pain and touch, will naturally be able to control the saber and sword more accurately. Killing, perhaps in a moment, does not allow for the slightest bit of carelessness. As for the legs, the explosive power must be strong, the speed must be fast, and they must be agile. No matter if it is a battle between experts or an army with thousands of men and horses, if the speed of your legs is extremely fast and your agility reaches a terrifying level, even in an army with thousands of men and horses, you will not suffer the slightest injury. Zhao Yunxing said. The legs determine a person's agility. Speed, explosive power, and agile reaction are of course important. Qin Yu became even more excited at this moment. He seemed to be able to see himself flickering like a phantom in an army with thousands of men and horses, killing people with a wave of his hand, but the enemy could not touch him in the slightest. This is agility, this is speed. The legs are incomparably important. The hands are flexible and fast. The strength is not as good as the legs, but they can hold weapons and attack wantonly. As for the legs, the muscle strength is greater than the arms. The attack power is extremely strong, and it also determines agility. Both are of the utmost importance, and the torso is the core of the body. On the first day of training, Zhao Yunxing was instilling the most basic essence of Zhao Yunxing's own training method to Qin Yu, the most primitive principle. Qin Yu listened carefully, engraving every word Zhao Yunxing said in the depths of his mind. Chapter 10. After talking for almost 2 hours, Qin Yu completely understood the principles behind his teacher's training method. At the same time, Qin Yu admired Zhao Yunxing even more. He could completely determine that if he followed Zhao Yunxing's training method, he would definitely be able to train a perfect body. Strength, speed, agility, flexibility, and so on would all be perfectly coordinated. If a worker wanted to do a good job, he must first sharpen his tools. After training a perfect body, he would then train in attacking, killing, and other methods. With good steel, would there be any need to worry about not being able to train a good blade? Then, the training would begin. Beside a beautiful round lake several hundred meters away from Misty Villa in Donglan Mountain, Zhao Yunxing stood beside the lake. Beside him was a mechanical pendulum clock. This mechanical pendulum clock was created by an expert who was proficient in mechanisms. Because it was too complicated to make, only aristocratic families would have them. The pendulum clock was divided into 24 hours, and 60 minutes per hour. Quick, swim faster, Zhao Yunxing said coldly. In the round lake, there was a figure swimming continuously. It was Qin Yu. According to Zhao Yunxing, although swimming was ordinary, it was an extremely good method to train the body's coordination and flexibility. Therefore, Qin Yu was ordered to swim continuously in the round lake. I really want to stop. Qin Yu clenched his teeth and waved his arms continuously. His legs also slapped the water in coordination. He had already swum 10 times. This round lake was 200 meters long. 10 rounds would be 2,000 meters. Qin Yu used to soak in the hot springs in the West Garden. The center of the hot springs was very deep. Qin Yu often swam in it. His swimming skills were very high. However, to swim continuously and finish in the specified time was too painful for Qin Yu. His legs were sore, his arms were sore, and his head was swollen. Father! Whenever he thought of his father's smile, Qin Yu clenched his teeth and continued to persevere. Even though he had already reached his limit, he still persisted. Faster, faster. Zhao Yunxing urged without the slightest bit of emotion. Qin Yu's eyes flashed with a hint of ruthlessness as he stared straight ahead. Hearing Zhao Yunxing's voice, Qin Yu kept urging himself to speed up. At this moment, Qin Yu's swollen head suddenly relaxed a little, and his arms and legs seemed to have regained their strength. Qin Yu could clearly feel that there was a surge of strength in his body. He didn't know where this strength came from, but it was produced naturally. There was a trace of excitement in Qin Yu's eyes. Surpassing the limit. He enjoyed this feeling. Every time he exceeded his physical limits, his already powerless body would once again produce a surge of energy from the depths of his body. He could even feel the changes in his body. That was the potential hidden deep within his body. Okay, you're 3 minutes late. Zhao Yunqing looked at the mechanical pendulum clock and said indifferently. Qin Yu reached the shore with difficulty. At this moment, he couldn't move at all, especially his arms. His legs were also extremely sore. Qin Yu panted like this, trying his best to breathe in the fresh air, trying his best to recover quickly. You're 3 minutes late. Now, your punishment is to run back to the West Court, and then do 100 squats in the West Court's training field empty-handed. Zhao Yunqing directly ordered. Run back to the West Court from here? And Qin Yu panted and couldn't speak. He looked at Zhao Yunqing in disbelief. At this moment, his legs were so weak that he couldn't even walk. This Zhao Yunqing actually wanted him to run back and do 100 squats. You have a problem with that? Zhao Yunqing asked indifferently. I have a problem with that. Surpassing the limit of the human body can train the body, but if it's too much, my body will collapse. I feel that I've already reached my limit. I can't continue training now. Teacher, when I was swimming just now, I've already felt that kind of limit twice in a row. I feel that I can't experience it again. Qin Yu looked straight at Zhao Yunqing and said directly. Zhao Yunqing said indifferently, I'm a teacher. You must obey my orders. If you feel that there's a problem with my training and don't want to continue training, I can leave immediately. I don't care about a lazy disciple like you. Qin Yu's expression changed slightly. Then, Qin Yu glanced at Zhao Yunqing, took a deep breath, and tried his best to urge his legs to run. When he ran for the first step, his legs were extremely swollen and sore. But after running for a while, his legs regained strength. Huh? What's going on? Qin Yu was shocked. Zhao Yunqing, who was watching from behind, had a hint of a smile on his face. This kid, don't tell me I can't judge your true limit? When you were swimming, your arms used more strength than your legs. The muscles of your legs are more developed than those of your arms. If your arms can endure, then your legs can at least undergo another set of training. Thinking of how Qin Yu had scolded him just now, Zhao Yunqing laughed in his heart. This kid. Shaking his head with a smile, Zhao Yunqing followed behind Qin Yu. In the evening, in the hot spring of the West Court. After a day of extreme training, Qin Yu was lying in the hot spring, feeling the soreness and numbness in his muscles. He could even feel the gradual changes in his muscles. Qin Yu had a look of enjoyment on his face. He opened his arms and shouted with great affection, Ah, my God, this is true enjoyment. Xiao Hei was also flapping his wings at the side. He seemed to be very happy. Zhao Yunqing walked over with a grave and stern face. He stood beside the hot spring and said, The hot spring in Misty Mountain Villa is very healing. It's very good for your body. Also, after you've soaked in the hot spring for 3 hours, go to Old Man Wang's place and apply some medicinal wine. Absorb some of the medicinal wine's efficacy. It's very good for your body. I know. Qin Yu was very happy at the moment. He waved his hand casually. Zhao Yunqing didn't care. He turned around and left. On the training field, Zhao Yunqing stood there straight. Qin Yu had also arrived early. This time, Qin Yu wasn't late. It was strange. Although he had trained to the limit yesterday, after the effects of the hot spring and the medicinal wine, he was full of energy today. It's no wonder that most of the people who can practice external martial arts to the limit are from rich and powerful families. Zhao Yunqing sighed in his heart. Practicing external martial arts meant constantly surpassing the limits of the body. However, the body didn't just produce power. It also needed to absorb energy. Rich children could eat nutritious food, eat special medicinal food, and drink precious medicinal wine. They could also ask medical experts to massage their bodies to relieve fatigue. With such conditions, practicing external martial arts would naturally be different. Now, let's do strength training. Hold an iron rod and do deep squats. First, 100. Zhao Yunxing casually pointed at an iron rod. The iron rod wasn't too thick. It was estimated to be about 10 jin. It was naturally easy for an adult. However, it was different for the 8-year-old Qin Yu. Humph. Qin Yu exerted strength in his arms and lifted the iron rod to his chest in one breath. He smiled and said, "Teacher, it's very easy. Let's talk about it after 100. Zhao Yunxing said indifferently. Immediately, Qin Yu began to do deep squats. At first, it was very easy. Wasn't it just standing up straight and squatting again? However, after doing 30 squats in a row, Qin Yu felt that his legs were sore. If he continued for another 10 squats, the soles of his feet would cramp up. 100 squats? It was only 40 squats, and Qin Yu was already feeling uncomfortable. Phew! After taking a deep breath and resting for a moment, the soles of his feet recovered. Qin Yu continued to do deep squats. However, the more he did it, the more painful it became. Qin Yu's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He gritted his teeth and persisted. After doing 70 squats in one breath, Qin Yu felt that his legs couldn't stand up anymore. Ha! Suddenly, Qin Yu utters a low shout. He exerts force on his waist and unexpectedly stands up. There is unexpectedly a burning light in his eyes. It is the light of excitement. Ha! With another loud shout, Qin Yu stood up again. Again and again, he tried to squeeze out every ounce of strength hidden in his legs. His legs gradually became hot, and a surge of strength emerged from the depths of his muscles. Just like that, almost miraculously, with Qin Yu's last shout, he actually completed his 100th squat. Although Qin Yu's legs were weak, as if he would fall down at any moment, his eyes were filled with excitement and burning madness. Zhao Yunxing nodded secretly at the side. Now, let's start the finger strength training. Zhao Yunxing's expression was still cold. He didn't give Qin Yu any time to rest and directly ordered. In fact, Zhao Yunxing's training plan was also well designed. At this moment, Qin Yu's legs were the most tired, but his hands hadn't reached their limits. Zhao Yunxing began the finger strength training. Although Qin Yu couldn't exert any strength in his legs, he still asked Zhao Yunxing with a smile, "Teacher, how do I train the finger strength?" Qin Yu liked the wonderful feeling of going beyond his limits more and more. The moment he went beyond his limits, he felt a kind of passion for life. Yes, passion. The burning of passion, the extreme madness. That feeling was wonderful. Chapter 11. The best way to train your finger strength is to do the finger meditation while standing upside down with one hand. But now your finger strength is still too weak. You'll have to follow the iron palms method to train your finger strength first. This is a heavenly silk cover. Put it on first. When you train your finger strength, you must not damage the muscles and skin of your hands. Zhao Yunxing has already prepared a heavenly silk cover for Qin Yu. Qin Yu immediately took the heavenly silk cover and put it on his hands happily. This is the white sand on the beach. Use all your strength to shovel and keep shoveling. Don't stop until I tell you to stop. Zhao Yunxing pointed to the white sand in an iron pot not far away and said, "Yes, teacher." Qin Yu instead treats this training as a game. But his legs are indeed very sore. Enduring the severe pain, he clenches his teeth and walks to the side of the iron pot 10 m away. Wearing the heavenly silk cover, Qin Yu shovels non-stop. Every time he shovels, he tries very hard to the end. Ah! Qin Yu couldn't help but groan. Although the heavenly silk cover could protect his fingers, it only prevented the sand from touching his fingers. However, when he shoveled with one hand, the force of the sand was really exerted on his hands. The extremely fast shoveling and the force of the white sand gradually made Qin Yu's fingers hurt terribly. Qin Yu couldn't help but secretly reduce the depth of the shovel. Originally, he had shoveled to the bottom, but now he just shoveled half of the sand out. This made it much easier. Shovel to the bottom. Don't be lazy, Zhao Yunxing said coldly. Qin Yu's heart skipped a beat. He could only grit his teeth and continue. Although Qin Yu liked the feeling of surpassing his limits, the 10 fingers were connected to the heart. The pain from his 10 fingers really made him suffer. After all, he was only an 8-year-old child. Moreover, he was the 3rd son of East Vanquishing Prince. He had a noble status and had never suffered so much before. Pooh! His hand suddenly shoveled to the bottom. The severe pain made Qin Yu unable to restrain his tears. Zhao Yunxing looked on coldly. Looking at the 8-year-old child in front of him who was crying while shoveling sand, Zhao Yunxing didn't seem to have the slightest bit of pity and kept on asking. Tears flowed down her face, but she still had to shovel it. Qin Yu had been training for half a year now. His daily training, coupled with his increased appetite, had made his body much stronger than before. Under a waterfall on Mount Donglon. Ha! With a flying kick, Zhao Yunxing actually kicked several huge rocks to the bottom of the waterfall. In a moment, several rocks formed a place where people could stand. The waterfall poured down from a high place and smashed on the surface of the rocks, splashing countless white water droplets. Your legs are as steady as a mountain and as fast as lightning. This waterfall is not a big waterfall. After squatting for so long, you should be able to maintain a stable horse stance under this waterfall with the strength of your legs. Zhao Yunxing pointed at the blue stone and said, "Stand on it. You must stand firm." It's not a big waterfall? Qin Yu looked at the waterfall that swooped down from an extremely high place. The huge impact smashed on the rocks, creating a loud rumbling sound. If this waterfall wasn't a waterfall, then what kind of waterfall could be considered a big waterfall? After squatting for half a year, Qin Yu's leg muscles were now much stronger than before. Yes. Qin Yu slowly stands on the edge of the blue stone at once. The waterfall is rushing down, so the blue stone is not under much pressure. Qin Yu assumes a horse stance on the edge of the blue stone so he can withstand the pressure relatively easily. Stand in the center, Zhao Yunxing said coldly. Qin Yu felt helpless. He could only slowly move his feet toward the center. The closer he was to the center, the greater the impact of the water. Qin Yu could already feel his body shaking, but he had to stand in the center. Not good. Qin Yu felt his body shake. His legs couldn't support him and he was immediately washed into the lake. Continue, Zhao Yunxing said indifferently. It was dark. Qin Yu was lying in the hot spring. He was so comfortable that his eyes narrowed. Every day in the hot spring was Qin Yu's greatest enjoyment. He didn't have such a feeling in the past, but now that he had trained to the limit every day, every time he entered the hot spring, his muscles would feel soreness and numbness. It was very cool. Xiao Hei had only grown a little in half a year. However, golden feathers had appeared on its head. The rest of its body was still black. Xiao Hei's growth rate was much slower than that of an ordinary eagle. At this moment, Xiao Hei was also wandering around the hot spring. Qin Yu has fallen asleep. He has fallen asleep in the hot spring. He trained every day during the day and soaked in the hot spring for 6 hours at night. He specially fixed a reclining chair in the hot spring. When he soaked in the hot spring, he slept in it. In the latter half of the night, he asked the medical expert Wang Xian to massage him and apply medicinal wine. At that time, Qin Yu could read a book. It could be said that he didn't waste any time. Beside the hot spring, 2 figures suddenly appeared. They were none other than Lian Yan and Zhao Yunxing. The 2 of them were looking at Qin Yu, who was sleeping soundly. Xiao Yu hasn't reached 9 years old yet. He's still a child. Looking at the sparkling and translucent saliva at the corners of Qin Yu's mouth and his still immature little face, Lian Yan felt a burst of pity in his heart. Having taken care of Qin Yu since he was a child, Lian Yan completely regarded Qin Yu as his own grandson. Zhao Yunxing showed a rare faint smile. Following the roar of a fierce tiger, Qin Yu's eyes turned slightly red. Qin Yu understood that from today onwards, he would have to train by himself. Chapter 12. The boundless wilderness is filled with towering mountains and lofty ridges, boundless jungles and demonic beasts. The wilderness is so large that nobody knows about it. The 3 eastern region counties claim to have 600,000 troops, of which 400,000 are stationed on the edge of the wilderness. The remaining 200,000 troops are stationed outside the Blackwater Mountain Range. There are nearly 200,000 bandits in the Blackwater Mountain Range, making it the #1 bandit stronghold in the world. Because these bandits are very familiar with the terrain of the Blackwater Mountain Range, they have the geographical advantage. Therefore, East Vanquishing Prince's 200,000 troops have always been stationed outside the mountain range to deter the Blackwater bandits. In a heavily guarded room in Taifeng City on the edge of the wilderness, East Vanquishing Prince Qin De is holding a book and reading it quietly. "Your Highness." Zhao Yunqing bows outside the door and says, "Come in, Yunqing." Qin De says directly without raising his head. Zhao Yunqing bows and enters the room. He stands on one side of the room and quietly waits for Qin De to speak. Zhao Yunqing has nothing but reverence for East Vanquishing Prince Qin De in his heart. Qin De puts down the book in his hand and raises his head to look at Zhao Yunqing. He says with a faint smile, "Yunqing, you've been teaching Yu for a year. Tell me, does Yu have a future in external techniques?" "Your Highness, Third Prince is very hard-working and very hard-working. His perseverance is even stronger than many adults," Zhao Yunqing says at once. A faint smile appears on Qin De's face. Zhao Yunqing continues, "But Third Prince's natural aptitude can only be considered above average. Historically, only people with extremely high natural aptitude have been able to practice external techniques to the extreme. But with the nourishment of Misty Villa's hot springs and the frequent use of precious medicinal cuisines, Third Prince still has a chance to reach the extreme of external techniques. The extreme of external techniques is the extreme of the Hotian level, close to the Xiantian level. When one's external techniques reach this level, one can even put up a fight against an early-stage Xiantian internal technique expert." "How many years will it take?" Qin De asks in reply. Zhao Yunqing thinks for a while, then says, "I think it will take 30 years. And this is Third Prince's persistence. In external techniques, the more you reach the later stages, the harder it is to make progress. For example, Third Prince will have no problem reaching 300 to 400 jin in one hand after practicing for 10 odd years. But the extreme of external techniques should reach 700 to 800 jin in one hand. The later stages will be harder. 30 years, that's about it." Qin De shook his head and sighed. 30 years is too long. However, to be able to protect himself in 10 years is already not bad. "All right, Yunqing, you go back first," Qin De says with a smile. Zhao Yunqing immediately bows and says, "Subordinate takes his leave." Soon after, Zhao Yunqing left the room, leaving Qin De alone. After a long time, a low sigh resounded in the room. Qin Yu stayed in a horse stance and persevered on the bluestone under the waterfall. Feeling the impact of the waterfall, Qin Yu secretly rejoiced in his heart. Fortunately, when he started training, Zhao Yunqing paid attention to the body's ability to resist attacks, and often smeared medicinal wine all over his body. This made Qin Yu's resistance to attacks not small, otherwise he would not have been able to withstand the impact of the waterfall. Persevere. Qin Yu constantly asked himself in his heart. Zhao Yunqing was no longer here, so there was no one to ask him. Qin Yu also had the thought of being lazy. After all, he was training alone and nobody would reprimand him for being lazy. Moreover, he was still a child. However, as soon as that thought appeared, it was strangled by him. His big brother, his second brother, and even his father, none of them were lazy and none of them were weak. As a descendant of the Qin clan and the son of East Vanquishing Prince Qin De, he naturally would not be weak. Work hard. Persevere, persevere. Feeling his legs go soft, Qin Yu constantly encouraged himself in his heart. He even felt the trembling of his leg muscles. Every time he persevered for a long time, strength would gush out from the depths of his muscles. Suddenly, with a numb leg, Qin Yu was thrown into the lake with a bang sound. Various sandbags are hanging upside down on the training ground. There are 6 sandbags in total. Qin Yu is standing among them quietly. Ha! Qin Yu shouted loudly and fiercely punched a sandbag. Almost in an instant, Qin Yu smashed 3 or 4 sandbags at the same time. Those sandbags swayed and bumped into other sandbags. Immediately, the whole group of sandbags shook. Without any trajectory, a sandbag originally rushed forward, but when it bumped into another sandbag, it changed its trajectory. Bang! 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 Qin Yu's eyes emitted a sharp light. Both of his hands quickly hit each of the sandbags. This was to train one's reaction speed. Reaction speed was related to arm muscles, and at the same time, it was also related to one's reaction speed. Reaction speed could also be improved through training. In a battle between experts, between life and death, a quick reaction could take the opponent's life. Following Qin Yu's rapid attacks, those sandbags swayed faster and faster. Qin Yu also felt the pressure increase for a moment. Suddenly, his back bumped into Qin Yu's back. His body involuntarily became chaotic. Immediately, 3 or 4 sandbags smashed onto his body. Bang! Qin Yu immediately fell to the ground, but he quickly climbed back up. Qin Yu sucked in a breath of cold air. He looked at his knee. His knee had already been completely scraped and blood was seeping out. There was also some sand and stones on the ground. Clearly, when he fell, his knee had struck the sand and stones. I actually didn't clean it properly. Qin Yu was helpless. Before training, he had already cleaned it once. Who would have thought that he hadn't cleaned it properly? Continue. Ignoring his injuries, Qin Yu swept the sand and stones far away. Then he rushed to the center of the sandbags and once again began to train his reaction speed. Lying on a chair with only his underpants, Qin Yu's entire body was smeared with medicinal wine. He was holding a book in his hand. At this moment, several lanterns were lit in the courtyard. Qin Yu sat beside a lantern and could clearly see the words on the book. Although teacher Zhao Yunqing had gone back, Qin Yu didn't lower his requirements at all. In fact, he was even stricter. Every day, he would train for an entire day. From night to midnight, he would absorb the nourishment from the hot spring to let his body recover. At the same time, it was also Qin Yu's sleeping time. At this moment, after applying medicinal wine to Wang Xian, it was time to read. It's been a long time since I went to the top of the mountain to look at the stars. Qin Yu looked up at the stars in the sky. There was a trace of a smile at the corner of his mouth. But it's not bad to look at the stars in the courtyard. Xiaohei, don't you think so? Hey, Xiaohei, I say, are you still an eagle? Why do you grow so slowly? You even have golden hair on your head? While saying, Qin Yu touched Xiaohei beside him. Xiaohei's eyes faintly lit up. He flapped his wings again and again, as if he didn't want Qin Yu to touch his head. He then proudly raised his head, appearing very arrogant. Qin Yu immediately burst out laughing. Forget it. I don't want to waste time with you. I'm going to read seriously. I have to continue training tomorrow. Qin Yu immediately started to read the thread-like book in his hand. It was a medical book. Qin Yu remembered clearly that Zhao Yunqing had said that if one wanted to become a real external expert, he had to be proficient in medical skills. Lian Yan was hiding in the shadow beside the gate of the courtyard. He was looking at Qin Yu kindly. Especially when he heard Qin Yu say that he didn't want to waste time playing with the Black Eagle, Lian Yan felt a burst of pity in his heart. Qin Yu was only 9 years old, but he didn't waste any time in a day. Qin Yu planned every minute well. Everything was for the sake of painstakingly training. But what was the point of all this? He hadn't been to Misty Villa for a very long time. While reading the book, it was already dawn. Some of the pastries and so on next to Qin Yu's chair had also been eaten up by Qin Yu. Qin Yu put down the book in his hand. He raised his head and looked at the sky. He stretched himself very happily and said with a brilliant smile on his face, "A new day begins in the morning. A new day has come. Qin Yu, work hard. Work hard and you'll succeed. A new day of training has begun." Chapter 13. In the hot spring, Qin Yu stood there with a determined look in his eyes. Don't think that Qin Yu was soaking in the hot spring. He was doing explosive training with resistance in the water. Explosive training with resistance in the water was helpful for the body's explosive power. Rather than training in other lakes, it was better to train in the hot spring. First, the water in the hot spring had resistance, and second, it could nourish the body continuously. It was killing two birds with one stone. Punch. Withdraw. Kick. Withdraw. Qin Yu punched and kicked rapidly in the water. Every time, Qin Yu would explode with his strongest strength, allowing his speed to reach the fastest. Qin Yu was in the horse stance, and he didn't sway in the water. This was also the skill of the horse stance for a long time. The flowing water had its own unique trajectory. Qin Yu would increase the speed of his punches and kicks every time. Naturally, the trajectory of his punches and kicks began to change. What should be the trajectory of his punches? Straight line? Curved line? None of them were right. Nothing is absolute. Straight lines and curves blend with each other. Everything is for the sake of making his punches faster and more powerful so that he will receive less resistance. Everything is for the sake of greater power and greater speed. Qin Yu attacks non-stop. At this moment, Qin Yu's arms and legs were tied with small pieces of iron. On the training field, Qin Yu is wearing only a pair of underpants and taking a horse stance. There is a burly bodyguard on one side of him. The burly bodyguard is holding a wooden stick in his hand. At the moment, Qin Yu is doing resistance training. Only by continuously taking hits and absorbing medicinal wine can the body become even stronger and more valiant. When trained to the extreme, the body can even withstand knives and spears. "Uncle Yang, use more strength," Qin Yu said to the burly guard beside him with dissatisfaction. Yong Shan hurriedly advised, "Third Prince, it's about time. The training can end now." Yong Shan looked at the red marks on Qin Yu's body and then looked at the indifferent expression on Qin Yu's immature face. He felt a burst of heartache. When Qin Yu was 6 years old, Yong Shan and the others had come to Misty Villa together. For the past 3 years, they had all watched this child grow up. Who could bear to hit this child? But Yong Shan was forced to fight, because this was the resistance training of external training. "If I tell you to hit me, then hit me. Forget it, I'll do it myself." Qin Yu shook his head and smiled. As he spoke, he reached for the wooden club. When Yong Shan saw this, he quickly retreated, refusing to let Qin Yu hold the wooden club himself. He hurriedly said, Okay, I'll continue. Put more strength into it, right? I got it." Yong Shan didn't dare to let Qin Yu hit himself. When Qin Yu hit himself, he would hit himself to the limit. He also entrusted Qin Yu with some instructions. Qin Yu then left Wang Xian's residence. Tonight, the sky was filled with extremely bright stars. "Teacher has left. With the daily training, my body will also become stronger and stronger. The amount of training must be increased. Moreover, I should also add some other training methods." Qin Yu thought to himself as he looked at the stars in the sky. Afterwards, Qin Yu directly walked into the underground secret rooms of the North Garden. Qin Yu was very familiar with all kinds of mechanisms. Entering the secret room where secret manuals were stored, he saw that there were many secret manuals on the long table. Qin Yu didn't put them away. After all, only he and Lien Yen knew how to open this secret room. Qin Yu immediately looked at the 28 external secret manuals. There were all kinds of training methods in these external secret manuals. Qin Yu wanted to find some suitable methods for himself. Suddenly, Qin Yu's eyes were unconsciously attracted by the only golden color in the secret manuals. Among the 96 secret manuals, only one was made of golden paper. It glittered with golden light and was naturally incomparably eye-catching. It was none other than the ancestral dragon arts. An idea suddenly popped into Qin Yu's mind. At that time I couldn't practice internal energy. But now I've been training my body for more than a year and I'm a lot stronger than before. Maybe the problem with my dantian will disappear automatically. Qin Yu thought so. After all, for people who are generally ill, after practicing martial arts, their illness will disappear automatically. But Qin Yu forgot that his dantian was different from that of ordinary people. It wasn't an illness. It was innate. But Qin Yu was still a child. Moreover, he had always wanted to increase his strength quickly. It was normal for him to have this idea. No matter what, I'll give it a try first. It won't waste much time anyway. Qin Yu immediately sits down with legs crossed on the bed. He takes the ancestral dragon art and starts to practice according to the contents of the first chapter. His mind becomes empty and he enters an ethereal state. In just a moment, Qin Yu felt the spiritual energy of heaven and earth being absorbed into his body. It turned into a warm current and was much stronger than the one he had experienced more than a year ago. Sure enough, with a strong body, the absorption of spiritual energy of heaven and earth is much faster. Let's start the circulation. Qin Yu immediately controlled the warm current to circulate in his body. According to the trajectory of the ancestral dragon art's small circulation, the warm current constantly changed and then merged into his dantian. Qin Yu is excited in his heart. He carefully senses whether or not this small stream of internal energy will disperse. It must not dissipate. It must not dissipate. Qin Yu was looking forward to it. He focused even more and felt this small stream of internal energy with all his mind. Limit training was the best way to train one's mind. Qin Yu had been training for such a long time. His mental strength was much stronger than ordinary people. It was also many times stronger than when he first started practicing. He could clearly feel the internal energy slowly dissipating in his dantian. Then, it dispersed in all directions along his limbs and bones. Sigh, I failed again. Qin Yu sighed in his heart. Suddenly, that's not right. Qin Yu seems to have discovered a shocking secret. He concentrates all of his attention on the internal energy that has spread out. Even though most of that internal energy has spread out into the air through his limbs and bones, there is still a part of it that unexpectedly fuses with his body's muscles and bones. To be precise, Qin Yu's muscles and bones were like sand. The internal energy was like water. The water flowed through the sand, but a portion of the water was still absorbed. This was the same principle. Although the internal energy flowed into the outside world, a portion of the energy was still absorbed. Qin Yu's eyes lit up. That's great, that's great, that's great. Qin Yu was so excited that his whole body trembled. Although absorbing the effects of the medicinal wine can replenish the body's muscles, how can it be compared to internal energy? I can't accumulate internal energy, but my muscles can absorb internal energy. It makes my muscles stronger and allows my external cultivation to be faster and faster. Qin Yu was so excited that he could even hear his heart beating violently. Father, I will definitely succeed. Qin Yu's eyes shone brightly. There had never been a moment when Qin Yu was so confident. Qin Yu's path of external cultivation was filled with danger. On the dark path, a ray of light was shining. Chapter 14. As the inner strength fused with his muscles, Qin Yu's muscles and bones began to transform. As he absorbed the inner strength, the flexibility and potential of his muscles continued to increase. This allowed Qin Yu's body to train at a speed that no one had ever imagined before. Time passed by, Qin Yu's strength also rapidly increased. Half a year later, Zhao Yunqing had returned for a year, and Qin Yu was now 10 years old. On the mountain path of Donglan Mountain, Qin Yu's eyes were like a hawk's as he stared straight ahead. His legs took large strides as he ran. Outsiders would not be able to imagine that his arms and legs were covered with 5-gene heavy iron protective gear. His legs were also covered with 10-gene heavy iron protective gear. The iron vest on his body was also about 20-gene heavy. Qin Yu ran at an extremely fast speed without stopping at all. The different parts of the body that were loaded with weights were also different in difficulty. If he only carried the weights on his back, it would be easier for his legs to run. However, with the weights on his arms and legs, running with his legs required a lot of strength. At the same time, this was also a way to train the explosive strength of Qin Yu's arms and legs. The peak of the mountain was already in sight. Qin Yu could not help but have a bright smile on his face. The improvement of my strength in this half a year has surpassed the previous year of training. The potential and flexibility of my muscles have increased by a lot. Moreover, absorbing inner strength is much better for the flexibility of my muscles compared to other training methods. Yes, continue to work hard. Qin Yu's eyes were filled with excitement. For the past half a year, he had been constantly training his inner strength late at night. Although his dantian was unable to store inner strength, his muscles had absorbed a portion of the inner strength that was emitted. At this moment, Qin Yu's muscle flexibility and even its potential had increased by a lot. The 3 internal experts, who have been following Qin Yu in secret, are also extremely shocked in their hearts. These 3 experts had been secretly protecting Qin Yu. They were also worried that Qin Yu would be injured or faint when he was training alone. Then, they would be able to help him. However, for the past half a year, they had seen Qin Yu continuously increase the difficulty of his training. The degree of increase had even shocked the 3 inner strength experts. However, Qin Yu had still managed to endure it. Under the waterfall, Qin Yu was still carrying the same weight as before. He was in a horse stance under the waterfall, enduring the impact of the waterfall. Ha! Under the impact of the waterfall, Qin Yu shouted in a low voice. From time to time, he rapidly punched out with his fists. The shadows of his fists were like wind and thunder, hitting the waterfall one by one. As he trained the attacking power of his arms, the water splashed everywhere. Under the sunlight, the rainbow-colored light was very eye-catching. Qin Yu took a horse stance, but he remained motionless like an ancient pine tree. With the increase in weight, the pressure on my legs has indeed increased. Qin Yu bit his lips and tried to stabilize his legs. At this moment, Qin Yu's legs were not only affected by the impact of the waterfall, but also by the weight on his body. Of course, it was very difficult for him to persist. However, the existence of the weight also increased Qin Yu's gravity and stabilized his center of gravity. Under the constant impact of the waterfall, Qin Yu's legs were under more and more pressure. To reach that kind of extreme state, one needed to persist. At the peak of the physiological limit, Qin Yu could clearly feel a warm current gushing out from the depths of his muscles, allowing his legs to gain strength again. Because his muscles absorbed the inner strength, now every time he reached the limit, the strength he felt was much greater than before. This also allowed Qin Yu to improve a lot faster. Night. Qin Yu closed his eyes and sat cross-legged on the bed. He constantly absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and then converted it into inner strength and transferred it into his dantian. Then, the inner strength dispersed in all directions. Qin Yu's muscles, which were constantly being tempered by him, were like a thirsty traveler, constantly absorbing the inner strength. After a night, Qin Yu opened his eyes. Just as I thought, the more I train, the more inner strength my muscles absorb. The inner strength I absorbed today is about 1/5 of the total amount. Qin Yu's face was full of excitement. The speed at which the inner strength dissipated was very fast. Most of it scattered into the air, and only a small part was absorbed. Now that he could absorb 1/5 of it, it was already very high. Qin Yu suddenly got up, and suddenly felt his whole body was filled with strength. The inner strength was absorbed into his muscles, which greatly increased the hidden potential of his muscles. A new day has arrived. Let's continue training. Qin Yu smiled and rushed out of the room. Day after day of training, Qin Yu's body also quietly underwent a transformation. As he grew older, Qin Yu reached the age of puberty. Puberty. This was a period of rapid improvement in the human body's physiology. Suddenly, Qin Yu's appetite soared, and the various functions of his body increased at an even faster speed. From the age of 10 to 11, Qin Yu's improvement was the greatest in the 3 years of training. In this year, not only did his body develop, his bones increased, and his muscles increased. Every day, the rate of his muscles absorbing inner strength increased by a lot. At the age of 11, Qin Yu's height reached about 1.6 meters. His strength could be said to have multiplied several times. On the training field, Qin Yu wore a black training suit and sat casually. It was rare that he didn't have a rest. Wearing a training suit, one couldn't tell from his appearance. At this moment, Qin Yu's arms were loaded with 10 gene of arm guards, and his legs were loaded with 20 gene of leg guards. He was also wearing a 40 gene iron vest, which was equivalent to carrying 100 gene of weight. However, this was nothing to Qin Yu, who had trained for 3 years. This little bit of strength is still very lacking. As soon as Qin Yu thinks of the 8 external experts in the past, he feels that he is very weak. Man Dong's arm was 800 gene, and he could probably carry 1,000 gene of weight easily. Compared to him, Qin Yu was indeed very weak. However, Qin Yu forgot. He had only trained for 3 years. If he hadn't discovered the wonderful use of inner strength after Zhao Yunqing left, he would have needed at least 6 to 7 years to reach this level. Moreover, Qin Yu's path was different from other external experts. A body not only depended on strength, but also flexibility, speed, explosive power, resistance, and many other things. Qin Yu's strength was inferior to Man Dong's, but in terms of speed, Man Dong was even inferior to Qin Yu. Qin Yu's speed was very fast. Moreover, his body's flexibility was also very good, far surpassing that of ordinary external experts. When a wooden bucket was filled with water, it didn't depend on the highest plank, but on the lowest plank. Balance was very important. At a glance, Qin Yu, who was sitting on the chair, was like a leopard full of power. After 3 years of training and physical development, Qin Yu's height was 1.6 meters. Qin Yu had also advanced from a child to a teenager, and he was a teenager who was much stronger than ordinary adults. At this moment, the teenager was pondering. Teacher said that in order to train external martial arts, one must first train a perfect body. Then, through this body, one can learn all kinds of fighting techniques. However, fighting techniques can't be learned in a day or 2. I should start learning now. Qin Yu's eyes flashed with wisdom. In the past 3 years, Qin Yu had read all the Chinese medicine books and many other books in the study. The more books he read, the higher the logical ability of Qin Yu's brain, and the more he thought about things, the deeper his understanding of Zhao Yunqing's words. From now on, half of the daytime will be used to continue training my body, and the other half will be used to comprehend my own attacking techniques. Qin Yu suddenly stood up, walked directly out of the training field, and walked towards the study, still wearing the 100 kilograms weight. Qin Yu, 24 hours a day, except for taking a bath, almost never took off the weight. The prototype of a perfect body had been formed. How could he use this body to attack? Zhao Yunqing had his own way, and Qin Yu certainly had his own way. Only by creating an attack method based on one's own body would it be the best and most powerful attack method. What Qin Yu needed to do now was to comprehend and create such an attacking method. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.